All kids out of the pool for Adult Swim.
Well, the way I see it, we're in a relationship, you and I. I was very good to you in the beginning, posting every day, giving you what you wanted. I checked in on you every day, you bragged to your friends about me. But imagine if I kept that up. Haven't you ever dated anyone before? You'd call me clingy and desperate. You'd get bored of me, cast me aside for someone more interesting. It would have in essence been clout suicide, and I just couldn't allow that to happen. So I did what anyone would do. I switched up.
Well, was that super dramatic or what? Did you like that? Was it cool? I'm just going to cut to the chase. Obviously, that's not why I was away from YouTube. This video has taken so long, partially because it's a 2-hour-long video, partially because I'm a full-time student, and partially because Adobe has put me through absolute hell with this video, but I won't bore you with the details. As you can see from the title, this is a video that will cover all of the eras of Britney Spears, from Baby One More Time to Glory. I didn't include Glory Deluxe or Mood Ring. I'm sorry, I have to pick my battles. As I edited this video, I just kept finding more and more things to add, and if I would have just let myself do it all, I would have been editing this video for another 4 months. So I just have to let it go, and this is the video. It will be missing things. I cannot possibly include every single thing that she's done in her career in this video. There's also not going to be in-depth information about the conservatorship or any of that stuff. If you want to see that, I highly suggest going to Deep Dive here on YouTube. I put a whole lot of work into this, so if you would like the video and subscribe and turn on the notifications, I would really, 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 really appreciate it. Now I'm going to let me take it away. First, there will be another little intro thing because I just can't help myself, but enjoy the video.
Too complex, much too complex. Too complex, much too complex. Too complex, too complex. Too complex. Too complex. Too complex, much too complex. Too complex, too complex. Too complex.
If you seek Amy.
Much too complex.
Doesn't make any sense, does it?
Much too complex. Much too complex.
Her first era is, of course, going to be Baby One More Time. She was on television before this doing commercials. She was on Mickey Mouse Club, of course, as we know, with Justin Timberlake, Christina Aguilera, Ryan Gosling. Very widely known fact. I don't think I really need to go into it because it's not really a full era. But she really was grinding as a kid so that she could be a pop star when she was older. She said all she ever wanted to do was dance and sing. And then we meet Larry Rudolph. While the 90s were rife with girl and boy groups and whatever you would call S Club 7, Larry Rudolph saw a gap in the market for a solo teen pop idol, the 90s equivalent to Tiffany or Madonna, and because of that, Britney, as we know her, is born. He shopped her around until she signed by Jive Records in 1997. Part of the selling point for her as an artist was that she was young and hungry and she was going to work hard and be as adaptable as possible to make her dreams come true. So they sent her off to Sweden to record an album with Max Martin. Max Martin was one of the most in-demand producers in the world at the time. He was making hits for everyone who had hits. So you heard it on the radio, Max Martin probably produced it. While she's there, she's introduced to her new signature sound, the baby voice. Her super deep, soulful voice alongside with her dancing and charisma were what got her noticed by talent scouts, namely Larry Rudolph, in the first place. But unfortunately, they didn't really see a pop star with like Toni Braxton vocals as something that was gonna take off on the radio in the late 90s. And Britney was, like I said before, adaptable, so she learned the art of the baby voice and the album was made. Before her debut single came out, she was promoted on a mall tour. These were an especially successful marketing tactic in the 80s and 90s. It's kind of obvious. You want teens to see your thing, so you put it in front of them where they are all the time, which in the 80s and 90s was malls. Mall tours were popularized by Tiffany in the 80s, who, as I said, Britney was kind of supposed to fill the shoes of in a way. And their rise to fame was actually kind of similar. Tiffany toured the malls singing her soon-to-come single, I Think We're Alone Now, and Britney toured the malls singing her soon-to-come single, Baby One More Time. Also, still before any singles or anything, Britney joined NSYNC on their Second to None tour as the opening act. But once that first single dropped, it was a whole new world for Britney. Fans liked her before, but now they loved her. Just look at these two clips of a mall show pre and post Baby One More Time. In November comes the music video, and now it goes 17 on the Billboard Hot 100. And this video gives us our first large-scale audience taste of what Britney, and more specifically this era, has to offer. If I had to describe this era with one vibe, it would be Girl Next Door. And this video shows exactly that. This video, directed by Nigel Dick, had a $1 million budget and was originally meant to feature Britney fighting a CGI monster. Britney stepped in, though, and said that she didn't like that concept and it wasn't going to resonate with her age group. And thus begins the very long trend of Britney proving that she knows best when it comes to her audience. For only 30% of the original budget, they were able to complete Britney's idea, which was she's in class, the bell rings, and then everyone's dancing around in the halls, and they're leaving school, and they're so happy because there's nothing that teenagers love more than leaving school. Fun fact, actually really sad fact, the love interest in this video is played by Abercrombie & Fitch model Chad Spears. Yes, Spears as in her cousin. But besides that, the world's introduced to Britney as an artist and her signature choreography and even iconic costumes and silhouettes that she would become known for. Another thing that spawned from this video that would basically become synonymous with Britney was controversy. Britney cannot so much as lift a finger without an angry council of wasps telling her that she's somehow leading their kids down a dark path. Because as we all know, it is a pop star's responsibility to raise your children. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that the concept of a schoolgirl uniform is free of flaws. I just don't like the way that people seem to act like this looks like this. These kind of Puritan reactions to everything Britney did can, as argued by some, be tied to the general culture around female sexuality following Bill Clinton's affair. But it's in these conditions that a young female artist is trying to make a name for herself. In that same vein, Britney, of course, covered a lot of teen magazines at this time, and the photos were exactly what you would expect. But what was out of the ordinary was her Rolling Stone cover. This was shot by David LaChapelle, who is responsible for some of the most iconic and some of the most controversial magazines and photo shoots of all time, including this one. The photos drew on the idea of Britney as a girl next door turned sexed up Pop-Tart. Like, I get it, but at the same time, she's an underage child. Like, that taboo that you're playing on, there's a reason why it's taboo. And she did later come out and say as an adult that this photo shoot made her feel kind of betrayed because she didn't understand the ramifications of what she was doing and like how the photos were going to translate onto paper from being in the situation. These photos are beloved by fans, but at the time she faced a lot of backlash for these slightly provocative photos, especially after everything with Baby One More Time, and it made people start to think that she was creating controversy on purpose just to get her name out. But anyway, Baby One More Time as a single was a success already, but once that album came out, it was clear that there was a new star in town. The album debuted at #1 and sold over 120,000 copies and would later become known as the best-selling album by a teenage solo artist ever. Baby One More Time as a single also went #1 at this point, and this was another record broken. The list of accolades that's written on Wikipedia and everywhere else for this album is really confusing, so allow me to explain. She was the very first female artist to have a #1 single and album in the same week. She was also the first new artist of any gender to do this, which would also make her the youngest person to do it, and add to that it was her debut album. This album is very 90s teen pop, of course. She didn't have her signature Britney sound yet because she was still finding it, and you can really hear the seeds of it on her singles. But this is before she had really perfected that baby voice, so there's a lot of deep voice singing on this album, which really always makes me laugh when people like to pull up that one clip of her singing as a child to be like, oh my god, Britney sings in a deep voice and she's faking that baby voice. Like, yes, if you listen to songs other than her singles, you would hear that on damn near every single album. It received mixed reviews upon its release, but in hindsight, it's often revered as the pinnacle of 90s teen pop. And it put Britney herself in a position to kind of lead the way and decide where pop music was going to go into the new millennium. So back to our timeline, there are 5 music videos from this era. The singles for this album were Baby One More Time, Sometimes, Drive Me Crazy, and then Europe and the UK got Born to Make You Happy, and the US got Bottom of My Broken Heart. Nigel Dick directed the first 3 music videos, Baby, Sometimes, and Crazy, and they all have a very similar feel to them. Crazy was the first to be featured and debuted on MTV's Making the Video, and that song was actually for a movie that starred Melissa Joan Hart, aka Sabrina the Teenage Witch. And they changed the original title of the movie from Next to You to Drive Me Crazy because of the huge success of this song. I recently watched one of my favorite creators, Nick DeRamio, do a video on this episode of Making the Video in their clip breakdown series. You should definitely go check that out. I'll link it below. And it was this whole thing where the entire release of this movie kind of got centered around Britney instead of Melissa Joan Hart, and she was crying at the red carpet at the premiere because everyone was just calling for Britney and no one was paying attention to her, and it was her movie, and then also to know that the title got changed because of the song, it's really so sad. And after this, Britney actually performed the song on Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and she did cameos on other shows too, like Kenan and Kel and Famous Jet Jackson on Disney Channel. At the point when Crazy is released, Britney is at the top of the world. She's doing her first headlining tour, and she's only one single year into her career as a pop star. So let's talk about this tour. This is the Baby One More Time tour, sponsored by Tommy Hilfiger, and everything about this tour is honing in on that good girl next door image, but don't be fooled, it wouldn't be Britney if she didn't push the boundaries a little bit. The looks go as you would expect, typical Britney silhouette, kind of baggy pants with a crop top, but the vinyl material I think really steps this up from something like a casual music video look to a tour look. Then we get something casual, Tommy Hilfiger jeans, white top, Tommy overalls, white top. Then we get this Madonna tribute in a pink slip dress, and then the slip dress gets ripped off to reveal this black leather two-piece for a Janet tribute, which I think was just testing the waters, because then we go back casual for the rest of the show, and then the encore look is a bedazzled schoolgirl uniform, which I think is another good example of a tourified version of just a regular iconic look. The last singles of this album were Born to Make You Happy in Europe and Bottom of My Broken Heart in the US. The Born to Make You Happy music video was directed by Billy Woodruff, who worked on a lot of R&B videos, and that one's kind of in her typical style, the performance music video with her by herself singing and then her dancing with dancers. There were rumors before it was released that the original plot of the video was going to be something about pregnancy, and that got a bunch of backlash, but I don't know how true that is. For the Bottom of My Broken Heart video, Britney wanted to change it up and do something different than a performance and dance video. So she enlisted director Gregory Dark and created a more story-driven video with no choreo about a girl who's moving out of town. Cute, simple little fun video for the kids. Still not enough to stop criticism, because apparently before Gregory Dark was directing videos and films, he was directing Korn. She goes to every award show in this era, as most budding pop stars do in their first couple years, and you can see her style evolution if you really look at all of her red carpet looks and outfits she was wearing for performances just within that first year. Of course, she's putting on an amazing show, and these performances are insane, especially for a brand new artist. But she still at this point didn't have any iconic award show moments. And if you know anything about Britney, you know that's kind of her thing. And on the red carpet most of the time, she was very understated, very once again, girl next door, local girl. And where I think we start to see some of that real pop star Britney that we've come to love is towards the end of this era and the beginning of the Oops era. She really starts to glam it up, and we're seeing the progression of small town girl turned pop star. Another place that we see this turn from hometown girl to pop diva is on the Crazy 2K tour. This is kind of an extension of the Baby One More Time tour, but more so a promo for Britney's new music and, of course, era. The wardrobe for this tour is so much better. Not that the last one was bad, but it's just so much more put together. And they, for the most part, were all designed by Karen Lesage, I think is how you pronounce her name. I'm sorry if that's wrong. Some great outfits, this white fringe look, this iconic Beat Goes On costume. I cannot explain to you how much I absolutely adore this look. During this tour, she does a Hawaiian special, some very cute outfits for that one, same exact concert, but she switches up the wardrobe, of course. And this leads us to the Oops era. This era is going to officially begin when the debut single Oops, I Did It Again premieres on MTV's Making the Video. Britney goes back to her roots with a fun teen pop song and a video directed by Nigel Dick. This was criticized because some people thought it was too reminiscent of Baby One More Time. And I will say that I think an ellipses in the song title maybe should be something that you only do once, because it is a wee bit confusing. But I think there's a clear difference between this video and Baby One More Time if we're talking debut singles. Not only has Britney clearly been working on that baby voice, but the choreography is 10 times what we saw in the last video, and the production value is clearly way higher. And that's kind of the hallmark of this era. She still had that girl next door image that she made in Baby One More Time, but she's starting to break free from it now and go more pop diva icon. While her first album was obviously massively successful and showed a lot of potential from Britney, it did heavily rely on teen pop standards of the 90s. And that isn't in any way a fault, but when compared with Oops, I Did It Again, you can clearly hear that by this time Britney was carving out her own lane and her own sound that would later become the standard in pop. Bigger star, bigger rollout. She was doing press everywhere. The album came out only a week after the single, and the video dropped, and she went straight to SNL, MTV, to Japan, to Paris. And this album, though it sold considerably less than Baby One More Time, was received much more positively and went #1 in most countries, which I think is just a testament to her debut album's power. And I don't want it to sound like I'm in any way downplaying the success of this album. It might have looked as good on paper next to Baby, but this was her second biggest week in SoundScan history, and the biggest first week for any solo act at this point. Before she took it over, it was Garth Brooks, who is one of the biggest music sellers of all time. So let that sink in. She was huge. But unfortunately, with more fame and success comes more attention to Britney's personal life. And at that time, the thing that they were most obsessed with was her relationship with fellow teen pop idol Justin Timberlake. And it's not hard to see why. I mean, they were the teen dream. They were like Barbie and Ramen Noodle Ken. NSYNC was obviously massively popular, and Britney, of course, was huge, so putting them together was just recipe for chaos. I feel like we don't really have any young stars that people care about as much as them and that are selling as much as them right now. And I feel like the last super young, highly publicized couple like this that we had was Justin Bieber and Selena Gomez. And that's not even really comparable. But the two biggest teen stars that so many young people are literally obsessed with are dating each other and going everywhere, looking super cute together. It was a massive thing. And as we all know by now, the media had some kind of bizarre obsession with whether or not these two young people in particular were sexually active. Britney was 18, turning 19 at this time, which is very young, but it's a time when a lot of young people are feeling older and more mature and want to be seen as such, and that was clearly displayed in Britney's wardrobe at the time. The last line of the chorus on this album's lead single was, "I'm not that innocent." So rather than being that young girl pining for a little boyfriend, part of Britney's maturing image was turning into that, I don't need a guy to survive, I'm just young and I want to have fun. So lead single's out in April. By June, she's on the road again for the Oops, I Did It Again tour. This would be sponsored by Got Milk, Herbal Essences, and Polaroid, whose iZone cameras were very heavily used in the show, and there was a bunch of fun, interactive little camera things with these very 90s little film cameras. With all that sponsorship, there was obviously a higher budget for this tour. Britney was trying new things, there was a significantly higher number of wardrobe changes for this tour, and all around everything was just more theatrical. It doesn't just want to be a concert like it was in the past, now it's a show. There's more choreography than you'd seen before, more dancers, but she's still holding on to some of those staple Britney silhouettes. Lucky is released as her next single, classic music video, another one with no choreo, just focusing on the story, directed by Dave Meyers. This song and music video showcase a troubled star who, despite seemingly having everything she could want, is very lonely and sad. Obviously, the way anyone would interpret this is that Britney must herself feel this way to be making this song, right? But Britney was insistent in press that this song was not biographical and was more of a character piece that was, in part, inspired by Marilyn Monroe. Whether or not that's true, we'll never know, I suppose. But most people still see the song as either biographical or eerily prophetic. And unfortunately, I need to mention drama again. So because Britney was the standard in pop music at this point, and because she's selling like crazy, a lot of other female pop solo artists who were coming up at this time, which as you remember were relatively non-existent before, were promoted in reaction to Britney Spears. So whether or not that artist wanted or intended that, it happened. So Christina was a foil. Britney was from the country, Christina from the city. They were both on Mickey Mouse Club, and while Britney was vocal fry and baby voice, Christina was growls and belts. Avril Lavigne was marketed as the anti-Britney. You see the vibes. Britney's super popular, they're scrambling to find another niche, and because of this, there's a lot of manufactured drama about whether or not these stars are jealous of each other. So when Lucky is released as a single, the video comes out on Making the Video, of course, and it and Christina's video for Come On Over were battling it out on TRL for weeks. At this point, there's not really drama, there's just a lot of pitting the two artists against each other, and this still of them at the VMAs perfectly depicts the way that they would be compared. Because even though Britney never wasn't slut-shamed, there was still a clear good girl, bad girl dichotomy that was trying to be made, for no reason.
Eminem. Anyway.
That's probably the least important thing that happened at the VMAs that night. This is when Britney would have her very first iconic VMA performance, which, like I said before, kind of her thing. She comes down a staircase in a sparkly suit singing her cover of I Can't Get No Satisfaction, and then the suit tears away to reveal a sparkly nude two-piece, and she sings Oops, I Did It Again. There's choreography, and it is a moment. Of course there was controversy, but we don't care about that. Moving on.
Whatever.
The next single on the album is Stronger. This song had the same empowerment theme that we saw in Oops, and there's a callback to Baby One More Time in the lyrics, where in Baby One More Time she says, my loneliness is killing me, but now the lyrics say, my loneliness ain't killing me no more. There's an iconic chair dancing sequence as an ode to Janet Jackson's famous choreo in Miss You Much. And this song and video did really, really well. It's some of Britney's best choreography, and it peaked at number 11 on the Hot 100. And after this, I feel like there's this sudden shift in her star power. Last two award show red carpets, we get a little of this, we get a little of that. And they're cute, don't get me wrong, but then at the Billboard Awards, we get this. And then of course this at the American Music Awards, one of the most iconic red carpet looks in history. And did I mention that she was hosting that night as well? Hosted alongside LL Cool J, had a million looks, performed Stronger. Then she performed at the Super Bowl alongside Aerosmith, NSYNC, Mary J. Blige, Nelly, and in such a cute outfit too, might I add. A little football uniform get up, love it. Like, this is not normal for someone on their second album ever to be at the Super Bowl. In a similar fashion to the end of the Baby era, the end of this era saw Britney kind of hinting at the themes for the one that would follow. The last single from Oops is Don't Let Me Be the Last to Know, and this is significantly more sexed up than her last videos. There was some kissing, some touching in bikinis, and apparently her mom didn't approve of the original cut because it was too explicit. And allegedly Justin was pissed because she was kissing the guy in the video and that was a whole thing. But what better way to introduce the Britney era with a little bit of controversy? After this video comes out, the song's only really successful in Europe. It didn't get sent to US stations till way late. I don't know why, but it's all cool. After this, she starts filming for her new movie, Crossroads, and she's pretty much gone from the public eye professionally for like a year. And in this tiny career gap, this is when we get those iconic Pepsi commercials. Now let's enter the Britney era. This era starts with a bang, what would come to be one of the most iconic Britney moments of all time. Britney returned to the VMAs after her controversial performance the year before, and she went even bigger. The performance opens up in a jungle with Britney in a cage with a tiger provided by Doc Antle. She comes out and she says the words that almost define this era.
All you people look at me like I'm a little girl.
She's got on definitely her most risque costume to date, doing some of her best choreography ever. She literally took belly dancing lessons for this. And then she walks around stage carrying a giant Burmese python on her shoulders. It has been 20 years since this performance and it still has not been topped. And it was very clear to everyone that this era of Britney was going to be something completely different. Britney was no longer trying to get out of her kid sound. She was out of it, and it was just on you to accept it now. And this song would of course be the first single from Britney, titled I'm a Slave for You. 20 days after this performance, the video would debut on Making the Video, and the next day the single was actually released. I can't even imagine the anticipation after watching that performance live on the VMAs and then not being able to listen to the song for weeks. The video, just like the performance, super risque, and I think unarguably the peak of her choreography to this point. It might not be as instantly flashy as her like doing a backflip on the Billboard Awards, but look at how fast she is moving her body. And this video is a perfect example of when people try to say that Britney's a bad dancer, her choreo is easy. It's like, go on, try it, do it. I promise you that when you get up and do it, it's not going to look like Britney. She was not only keeping up with her dancers, but she's standing out among them. Besides the choreography, this video shows Britney in a way that we haven't seen her before. We've seen her in school, we've seen her in space, on the beach, on the pier, but now she's in this like sweaty, dirty building, dancing in close quarters with other sweaty people, and they're dying for water, and they're looking for rain, they're trying the sprinklers. But this was all totally new for Britney, and that went for the album too. She made an album that was completely different from what she had done before, and she just hoped it would work. Where she had typically worked exclusively with the top of the pops producers like Max Martin. This album, she had famous hip-hop producers Dark Child and the Neptunes, and you can clearly hear those funkier sounds that are on this album. Just listen.
What would it take for you to just leave?
And her boyfriend, Justin Timberlake, and Wade Robson, Britney's choreographer, actually wrote and produced a track, What It's Like to Be Me, and Justin's got some vocals on there that you can actually hear. Of course, that wasn't the entire album, though. There were still classic Britney-sounding songs from Max Martin. It wasn't just the sounds of the album that were more mature than 90s teen pop. The lyrical content was more adult than anything she'd ever released. Some of the songs featured literal moaning. Almost immediately after this album comes out, Britney goes out on her Dream Within a Dream tour. This starts off with an HBO special in Vegas, and I'm sure you can imagine things just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger for Britney. But I need you to understand how much bigger this was. It was more theatrical than ever, better costuming than ever, better choreo than ever. The name of the tour comes from an Edgar Allan Poe poem of the same name, and in the first act of the concert, there are a lot of these gothic elements that they show, and in Britney's costume. I'm absolutely obsessed with this outfit. I wish I could buy it. I love it so much. Everything about this opening segment is just so perfect to me. Then there's the cat suit and the overprotected choreo. Then she's like a ballerina in a music box, and she sings Born to Make You Happy, like in the sound of a music box, and she takes off the tutu and puts on this feather coat and sings Lucky. One of my favorite Britney costumes ever comes from this tour. This coat and hat look with like the dripping paint all over it. Yep, I love it. She literally flips around in the sky. She does Anticipating in this super colorful rainbow bright ass outfit, and then it all comes off and turns into the Slave for You costume. Then for the encore, there's a rain machine, and she's in this one-of-a-kind Victoria's Secret fully diamond encrusted bra, and they hang her over the crowd some more. This tour just steps it up. Even the most basic things are different now. Britney abandoned the regular stages that she had for her past tours, and for this one, there was this big oval stage so that you could kind of see everything better from every angle. Even that classic Britney silhouette that we'd grown so accustomed to has now changed. This era, she wears a lot of vintage-inspired elements. Long, flowy sleeves, turquoise jewelry, bell bottoms, big slouchy belts. Also, this is the beginning of Hackney, which is another one of her things. I think a lot of this was also inspired by the vibes of Crossroads as well. And a lot of this era that isn't about the maturing image of Britney was heavily influenced by that film. This era also is responsible for some of the best ever Britney choreography. This tour just had some of the best Britney dancing ever. Obviously, Slave for You, this breakdown in What It's Like to Be Me is some of my favorite Britney choreography ever in the entire world. I think this whole tour, she was just going so hard. She's in like peak physical fitness. She's the most famous she's ever been. She's got the most money she's ever had, to the best choreographers. Like everything is just so perfectly aligning, and it's just magical. And then there's this part during Alone where she dances perfectly in sync with a video of herself. The Boys choreography is another one. This era just gave everything to the dancing, and it was so perfect. But this tour is promoted by Concerts West, also known as AEG. What they will do usually is find venues for the tour, schedule it all out, pay the venues, or arrange sponsors for that, transportation, etc. Prior, Britney had always worked with Clear Channel Entertainment, which is now known as Live Nation. Clear Channel Entertainment are and were very, very powerful in the music industry. They, along with companies like Disney and Cumulus, own most radio stations that people are listening to. And at the time, in the early 2000s, Clear Channel Entertainment was the most powerful company in radio. So it's believed that once Britney had switched to have Concerts West promote her instead of Clear Channel, that their station started to boycott her music and refused to play it, resulting in lower ratings for Britney's music. And since there weren't going to be any more physical singles of her songs in the US anymore as it was phasing out, those radio plays were really, really important. That's why huge songs like Slave for You underperformed, especially when you consider Britney's obvious star power that she had at this time. The second single was Overprotected. This is a top 3 Britney song for me. It literally never gets old. I legitimately tear up sometimes at how good this song is. I really like the original version. There's also a Darkchild remix, which is the version that came out in America. They also have 2 different music videos. I prefer the music video for the Darkchild remix because the outfit is just so cute. And I love these shots like this. It's everything. But the reason I prefer the regular version to the Darkchild remix is because the Darkchild remix does not have this part.
Someone else but me.
And this part with the choreo, platinum. But this song is more than just phenomenal choreography and absolute auditory bliss. Its lyrics spoke to this era as a whole. What we know now is the Good Girl Gone Bad, the Miley Cyrus We Can't Stop, the Lindsay Lohan Rumors, even Selena Gomez Come and Get It. This formula was perfected by Britney Spears in this era. Britney said the album was self-titled because this era was going to be spent really trying to show everyone who Britney as a person really was. Not a girl, not yet a woman. And everything she wore in this era was more grown up. Except at the Grammys, she went very modest for the Grammys, but you get the vibe. This is a very pivotal moment in Britney's career. And this album got mixed reviews from critics. It sold really poorly in comparison to her last 2 albums, but that's all relative, and once again, just a testament to the popularity of that debut album, because Britney still went quadruple platinum. She was still the 2nd highest debut album sales of the year, and the highest selling female debut album sales that year. And it got her nominated for her very first Grammy. So maybe it's more so a sign of the times, considering this was at the height of Napster and everyone found out that they could just pirate music instead of going to the store and buying it. Then Crossroads premieres, and it wasn't great. Considering how bad all of the critic reviews were, it was still pretty successful in the box office. It was no Avatar, but it did better than the film it's often compared to, Glitter. Which, if you're unfamiliar, Glitter was a film that Mariah Carey starred in and made the soundtrack for. Black Femininity TV, a friend of the channel, she has a great video on this whole situation surrounding this movie. But Glitter had a lot of things go wrong. The soundtrack was released on September 11th, and the movie only a week later, and it was the same time that Mariah was having this sort of breakdown. So before Crossroads even came out, people were ready to hate it because of this precedent that was kind of set by Glitter for pop star films. But it also did help soften the blow because people were like, okay, hold on, Britney did alright. It was bad, but it wasn't as bad as Glitter. But like many greats, Britney was not safe of the wrath of the golden raspberries, and she won the award for Worst Actress as well as Worst Song for Not a Girl, Not Yet a Woman, which was released around the same time and used to promote the movie. And I should mention that that single did not do well in the US, but it did better than Overprotected did. And this time period, with Crossroads getting terrible reviews and her album flopping, all of that is used as fuel for this general population hate train for Britney. It's like, finally, we found something that this mega talented girl is not good at. Let's tear her down. She needs to be humbled. Summer of 2002, May to July, Britney spends this whole summer on the second leg of the Dream Within a Dream tour. 3 singles are released at this time: I Love Rock and Roll, which was in Crossroads, Boys, and Anticipating. Boys underperformed, unfortunately, though it was pretty much loved by critics. It was produced by the Neptunes, and there was a co-ed remix used for the Austin Powers Goldmember movie, and it featured Pharrell, who's a part of the Neptunes, and it had a great music video with a Mike Myers cameo. Anticipating was then released only in France with no video. And as we get to the end of this era, something that would change the entire world of Britney as we knew it happened. She and Justin broke up. I don't want too much of this video about her legacy to be about this guy.
4, 3, 2, battle!
But it is an important chunk of lore, so I'll speed run it for those who need to know. Basically, like I said before, Britney's virginity was constantly in question her entire career, and at this point, she's literally 20 going on 21. And it's like, obviously when you're a teenager and a stranger is asking you in front of the world whether or not you're a virgin, what are you supposed to do other than say yes? Like, what is the other option? You say no, and then you get called a slut, or you lie and say yes. And then it's like, also, did you expect her to keep you posted and update you as she went along her journey losing her virginity? Like, it's just bizarre. At every interview, they just stray from the topic of her music and drift into totally professional topics like her breasts and her virginity. And it was like everyone said, oh, you want to be a woman? Well, get ready to get harassed like a woman. And this breakup made it no different. In fact, it gave Justin, who was trying to break it solo, all the more power because now he could jump on the bandwagon because he already doesn't like her, she's his ex, and it'll line his pocket, so he couldn't get there fast enough. So he does this interview with Barbara Walters, and in response to the question of whether or not Britney maintained her vow to chastity,
did you and she live up to this during your relationship?
Sure. Sure.
He laughed. And as someone who spent a lot of time intimately with Britney for several years, I'm positive that he knew exactly the reaction that everyone would have to him saying that. He didn't give a shit because he wanted to be a star, so he did his little song and he got this girl to basically be Britney without saying it, and it was Britney, and the director was like, yeah, I gave an edge, I just wanted to shake off that boy band image. Britney in the public eye was seemingly unbothered and went around in her Dump Him shirt, which kind of, I would argue, is our piece of the next era in this era, but I'll explain that later. And after this breakup, she announced that she would be taking a short little break. But first, she had to finish her tour. The movie Stages, 3 Days in Mexico, documents the end of this tour, Britney's life at this time, and her feelings facing the unknown that was her upcoming break. This is one of the lesser-known Britney docs. It's shot in a completely different way than any of the other ones. The director went into it with the intention of showing how lonely touring is. The idea of always being somewhere but being nowhere at all. There's no background music or fast animated cuts. There's long, lingering, awkward, and sometimes really, really sad shots. It shows the reality of having a life like Britney's when you're 20 going on 21. The responsibility, the monotony. You basically just shadow Britney for 3 days in long car rides, lonely meals, boring tech rehearsals, photo shoots, rude press junkets where you get booed for not telling strangers about your breakup. There's a part where Britney gets a present from her mom that has her super emotional, and she goes to call her mom and thank her, but she doesn't answer, so she just has to leave a teary voicemail. And then she eats dinner alone in her hotel room. Then, the show. You really start to see how stressful this perfect superstar life can get. There's a huge storm, well, 2 huge storms. Before the show, it's storming, Britney's getting ready while her team is stressing, running around trying to make adjustments and tell her the updates to the set list and whatnot, because some parts of the show, like that part where she goes out and dances on the barge, or the part where she goes out and dances on the catwalk away from the covered stage, would just be too dangerous to include in the show. She takes the stage in the break between the 2 storms, and her production manager, Rob Brenner, is making calls, and he's saying that if the storm goes on, he's not doing anything because he can't assure that everyone will be safe. So she does the first 3 acts and exits the stage. The fans were pissed. They were booing. Apparently they were throwing chairs. And news reports said that since they were used to weather like that, it was really confusing to see an artist fully end a show because of it. So with this, that press junket, and the bird Britney flipped the paparazzi when she showed up, Mexico City was a bust. And you know how it goes. There's a hate train, so just go ahead and add that to the list of things people hate Britney for. But it wasn't really a break because she's at 2 award shows in the 2 months that she's off, and then right after that, Justin releases his little breakup song, Cry Me a River, which features an actress dressed up as Britney who he stalks and spies on. And then Britney announced that she was working on her next album, In the Zone. We're through with the transition into womanhood, the prodding around the idea of being a sexy grown woman. We're through with the charade. Britney said, no, actually, I'm not saving myself for marriage because I'm a 21-year-old adult woman and I can have sex and be sexual if I want to, actually. Did you know? And in the vein of the Dump Him shirt, we get a lot of slogan tees of the racier variety. Nothing absolutely crazy, but, you know, just not stuff America's sweetheart Britney Spears would have worn. Some of the most famous being the sexy shirt and the I'm a virgin, but this is an old shirt ones. It's clear that she's now wearing what she actually wants to wear as opposed to dressing for cameras that are always following her around, the volume of which is only increasing by the day. And I keep saying this isn't a video about her personal life, but this becomes a really important influence in her music and her live performances and the overall persona of Britney as we see. First big performance in this era is her very iconic VMA performance with Madonna, Christina Aguilera, and Missy Elliott. It had been about a year since Britney had performed, and the entire world had watched what had gone down in her personal life. And she comes out of this cake. She has a little recreation of Madonna's very famous first VMA performance to Like a Virgin. And she's dressed up like her and whatnot in the little boy toy outfit. Then Christina comes out also dressed like 1984 VMA Madonna, and they're singing together and they start rolling around on the ground. And then Madonna comes out and she's dressed as the groom now. And they sing her song Hollywood, which is Madonna's little comeback song at the time. They're all dancing together. It's very sensual, which I don't know if I have anyone watching me who's young enough to not know who Madonna is. But sex is kind of her thing. They're showing the crowd some very, very famous reactions in this crowd. And then Madonna kisses Britney, she kisses Christina, camera goes to Justin, just messy. Then they say this. Yo, 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 who that be? And Missy Elliott comes out. So basically, you've got these 2 former Pop-Tart stars who are trying to age their image a little bit, and they team up with Madonna, who is always very well known for being very openly sexual and just constantly at the receiving end of scrutiny, which isn't to say that the criticisms of her aren't always valid. So I don't think I need to tell you what the reactions of the public were to this. They were just shocked. And that was the point of doing it. Mission complete. And I swear to God if I see one comment about queerbaiting. But this idea of taking the bad press and using it as free marketing is something that I think Britney started to play into professionally. And I'll get into that more when we talk about Blackout in that time period, but I think Britney is smart, and it's clear that she always knew that making a little bit of controversy can bring you a long way. We see kind of that same idea in her music videos of this era. The first single is Me Against the Music featuring Madonna, but it's really more of a duet than a feature. And this collab actually came about, according to Britney, after she played Madonna the track during rehearsals for the VMAs. So we've got the biggest, hottest stars, 2 different generations together on this masterpiece of a song. And I have to take a moment to rave about this song. I love it so much. It might be because this is one of the first albums I actually have memory of listening to in my life. It has 2 of my absolute most favorite things that, in my opinion, opinion, when done right, will always elevate a song. Number 1, a moment of fast singing that's kind of impressive to get right. Some other notable examples of this sensation are Sweet Escape by Gwen Stefani and Love Like Whoa by the Ready Set. And number 2, addressing another artist by name in the song.
Hey Britney.
It always enhances a song. I love this song, it's incredible. Some critics found the lyrics simple and disappointing, but most agreed that it was a great dance track. The video shows Britney and Madonna in a cat and mouse type chase where Madonna's kind of hinted to be in a position of power and Britney's chasing her down. They're dancing in sync. Madonna starts to lose some of her power pieces like her cane and her jacket, and then at the end, just as Britney catches her and it looks like they're about to kiss, Madonna just poof disappears right into thin air. This was seen as a passing of the torch from one pop princess to another. And also the choreography, it's insane. Definitely one of her hardest dances. She's insane. She did SNL again.
Hosting Saturday Night Live with musical guest Britney Spears. Now, you know people are expecting us to,
Be funny?
No, you know.
Do impressions?
No, you know.
And some surprise shows at nightclubs in New York, Vegas, and LA. In November, the album comes out, and everything I say about this whole era might be biased because I think this might be my favorite album from her. Maybe it's because I'd never really done a full deep dive of Britney's music until right now when I'm exactly the same age as she was when she released this album, so it's a little more relatable. Maybe it's just personal nostalgia for this record. I don't know. But what I do know is that I love it. She's no longer working with Max Martin or any of the old Dream Team. She wrote on almost every song. I'll just say this. Me Against the Music. Boom Boom. Showdown. Touch of My Hand. Toxic. Every Time. Outrageous. And I'm only saying those because I can't say every single song. This album is gold. Because with Britney, she couldn't do exactly what she wanted because of Crossroads coming out. And it had to match the vibe and it had to be friendly for those viewers. But on In the Zone, she goes all in. Some criticisms of the album when it came out said that it didn't sound modern, but I honestly think that that's because it was ahead of its time. Britney carried the end of teen pop and made herself the spearhead of pop music, so everything that she did afterward became the standard in pop music. And if you go and listen to this record now, it doesn't sound very outdated. Negativity surrounded this album in the media though. They were just waiting for it to flop, especially after what had happened with Britney, again because of pirating. And when the album came out, it did do bad. In comparison to those first 2 albums, one of which holds several records for being like the highest selling album ever, but whatever. But when you compare it to the last album she'd released in this new era of not buying physical music, the album was doing fine. It had a significantly smaller drop-off than the one from Oops to Britney. The negativity also overshadowed the album when Britney eloped with hometown sweetheart Jason Alexander in Vegas, but her parents had the wedding annulled within only 55 hours. A 21-year-old woman. Not to say that it's a perfectly sound idea, I don't know her or him, but she's an adult. She should be able to make stupid decisions and learn from the repercussions of that naturally. Thankfully though, a couple weeks later, Toxic was released as the second single. And this song performed better than any single she had released since Stronger in 2000. This song was originally meant for Janet Jackson, but she didn't have time to record it, so she offered it to Kylie Minogue, but Kylie Minogue didn't want it. Today, she says she doesn't have any idea why she didn't take it, saying, quote, maybe stupidity. She did note that her biggest hit, Can't Get You Out of My Head, was rejected by several artists before she got it. One of those artists being S Club 7. This song had heavy Bhangra influences. The iconic string melody that you know is a chopped and reversed sample of a Hindi song from a 1981 film. The video came shortly after, and it has since been revered as one of the sexiest music videos of all time. The director of this video is actually Joseph Kahn, who directed the video for Stronger. She came to him with a fully fleshed out idea, broke it down into the tiniest of detail, and then Kahn came up with some special effects stuff, and together they made one of the most iconic pop music videos of all time. She's a stewardess, she hooks up with this guy in a bathroom, she poisons her ex, she's a super spy on a motorcycle, she goes full birthday suit covered in just diamonds and a G-string. Yes, she is literally naked. I don't know why I always thought this was a cat suit with diamonds on it, but it is not. That is her bare skin you're seeing. This was her most expensive video to date at $1 million, mostly because of the special effects that were included, and they aged alright. It's no Shark Boy and Lava Girl, but $1 million? And the reason I said before that it's between Britney and this era for choreography, even though most Britney fans would say Britney was peak, is in part because of the choreography in this video. You can better appreciate it when you look at the rehearsal footage, but there are so few pop stars that we've seen go this hard for choreography, especially since Britney. Like, when I've been watching other performances while working on this video, I was almost always unimpressed with the dancing because Britney was always just on this completely different level for choreography. But anyway, she had 2 television specials in this era. The first one was Britney Spears in the Zone, which aired on ABC right after the album came out. Absolutely nuts with the dancing on this one. The outfits seemed to be partially the same as the ones from the Surprise Club performances. The other special was Britney Live in Miami, which was on Showtime during the tour. So let's talk about this tour. The tour this year, of course, more theatrical than the last. This one was called the Onyx Hotel Tour. It was originally meant to be called In the Zone Tour, but that was copyrighted, so they did Onyx Hotel. The show was split into 7 segments. The first was check-in, so there's this little guy that does a monologue, and it's so theatrical, I literally love it so much. He throws this onyx, and then Britney appears on screen saying,
Once you check in, you can't check out.
Britney comes out with this black latex suit and a cape, and she sings Toxic and Overprotected, Boys and Showdown. Then there's the Mystic Lounge, where she has this frilly little number, and she sings lounge versions of Baby One More Time and Oops. Then Mystic Garden, she has this beautiful fairy dress on and she sings Every Time, and this angel comes down and holds her, and this is 1,000,000% Britney vocal. Also, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this dress might have been designed by Versace. I'm not sure, don't quote me on that, but I think it might have been. She had a lot of really good designers on this tour. Then in the Onyx Zone, she wears this super sparkly dress with this long flowy train, and she's lifted up into the air, a Britney favorite. Then there's a security camera segment. Britney comes out in a robe and she's singing Touching My Hand, and then she takes off the robe and she's got on this flesh tone catsuit with rhinestones all over it, and she gets into this little bathtub. Then she's in lingerie and she does Breathe on Me, and this is some very erotic choreo. If you happen to be watching this video and you went to this tour and you were with a parent, I am so sorry that you had to go through that. The next part is the club, where she performs Boom Boom in this pink bodysuit and these big ass jeans. The encore is called Checkout, and she does Me Against the Music, and she wears this red suit that rips off and it looks just like her costume from the video. An important thing that I have to mention from this tour is that this is when she meets Kevin Federline. I've seen people say that he was one of her dancers, which he was not. He was a backup dancer, but he was not one of Britney's backup dancers. He had just broken up with his pregnant fiance and mother of his other child, Shar Jackson, and Britney fans just really did not like him. The media loved this relationship because, obviously, family drama, and it helped them call Britney Spears white trash, which would only pick up and progress through this era and the Blackout era as she was with Kevin. But Britney was head over heels for him. She invited him out on her tour in Europe, and he was heavily featured in what was meant to be a Britney Spears doc, but ended up turning into Britney and Kevin Chaotic, the TV show, which I'll talk about later. So the same time this is happening, the third single, Every Time, comes out. This song is allegedly Britney's response to Justin Timberlake's Cry Me a River. And it's interesting to think about how their breakup really contributed to each of their drastic image changes. Britney came out with this whole era where she's finally grown and unapologetically embracing her sexuality, and Justin finally got a solo song that people liked, and his weirdo character in his video effectively stripped him of his boy band image, and the world loved it, like they ate it up. Allegedly, Britney wrote several unreleased songs about her breakup with Justin, including Guilty, Look Who's Talking Now, and Rockstar. But Every Time was chosen by the label over these songs because it would maintain her sweet little persona. In the song, Britney begs for forgiveness for hurting her partner. It was a favorite on the album because it's such a beautiful ballad, and it really shows off her vocals in a way that we don't always get to see from Britney. The music video was very controversial. It was directed by David LaChapelle. And before the video came out, MTV got a treatment of the video, which is basically a document with photos or some little blurb that describes the video. And in that document, it was said that Britney in the video would actually OD and wake up surrounded by Il's Pay. And it was believed that she was going to be doing an unaliving scene. But her team said that that was not what they were doing with the video, and they scrapped that and made new treatments. The final cut featured a hostile boyfriend, invasive paparazzi, manslaughter, drowning, and then a smiley Britney coming up from the water as if it was all some kind of dark fantasy. And this is allegedly because MTV said they wouldn't play it if she didn't wake back up at the end of the video. Right after this, we have a very short period of Britney with dark hair, and I don't know if it's temporary or something, but it's back blonde by the next single. which is outrageous. This is a track that was produced by R. Kelly. It's a good song, everyone loved it, including Britney's team. They had wanted it to be the first single, but she wanted it to be Me Against the Music. And then they wanted it for the second single, but she wanted it to be Toxic. So now it's here for the third single. A remix of the song featuring Snoop Dogg was picked to be the theme song for Halle Berry's Catwoman. So that was going to be the next single with a proper music video and everything. The song was set to premiere on radio on June 20th with a video on MTV on the 28th. But on the 8th, while filming the dance scenes in New York, she injured her knee. This was the same knee that she had injured 5 years before, so it was aggravating that old injury. The doctors found floating cartilage in her knee and did have to perform surgery on her. As a result, the remainder of the Onyx Hotel tour was canceled, and some fans considered this to be the end of Britney's dancing prime. So at this time, she's on a little bit of a break, and Britney proposes to Kevin. They have a little surprise wedding at their wedding planner's house, and Britney's bridesmaids wear juicy tracksuits, and Kevin's groomsmen wore shirts that said pimps on them. And now we move into the My Prerogative, chaotic, family starting, career break era. But we'll just call it the My Prerogative era because that's the album that gets released. My Prerogative is the name of Britney's first ever compilation album. It featured her biggest hits to date as well as 3 new tracks titled My Prerogative, I've Just Begun, and Do Something. My Prerogative would be the lead single for this release. It's a cover of a Bobby Brown song by the same name. Because Britney was surrounded by controversy at this point and everyone was telling her they didn't like anything she was doing, people said this cover was useless and existed just for the music video, and that she liked the image of pop star going off the rails. And I'll just say here that I don't think Britney liked the image of pop star going off the rails. I do think at times, though, Britney wanted to be like, you're gonna complain no matter what I do, so let me just live my life and not worry about them, who cares? And sometimes she'd play into it with things like the I'm a Virgin shirt. But I can imagine that that would be a bit of a slippery slope where Britney in the situation would be like, ha, I'm winning, I'm essentially kind of trolling the paparazzi and you think that you know so much about me, but you really don't know anything about me. But the hundreds of paparazzi and tabloids are like, oh, okay, I see, we're both benefiting from each other, she likes this. I'm helping her career, let me go harder, let me do more, let me pry a little deeper. And those paparazzi, as if they weren't bad enough, will only continue to get worse starting after this relationship with Kevin. And that all is important not only for the context of this song and video, but for everything that happens in this era that will lead us into the Blackout era. After My Prerogative comes out, Britney and Kevin have a surprise wedding. Then she teams up with Elizabeth Arden to release a perfume called Curious. It breaks their records for perfume sales. It sold really well. She made millions of dollars from this deal. Then she announces she's taking another career break to start a family. In November of 2004, the My Prerogative album drops. It hits number 4 on the Billboard 200s and goes platinum. In December, Britney goes on Kiss FM to debut a new song that she was working on titled Mona Lisa. This visit was not team approved. She'd called the DJ herself an hour before and went there, played the song, and said her next album would probably be titled Original Doll and it would come out sometime before summer 2005. Her label then jumped in and said there was no plan to release an album at the moment, and they didn't plan to release Mona Lisa to other radio stations. But this is important because it's the first time Britney talks about this Mona Lisa character. As someone with a famous persona, Britney related to Mona Lisa in the way that even though they're constantly hyperanalyzed, no one really knows anything about her. And it seems that at this time she was going for that Sasha Fierce kind of alter ego to perform as with Mona Lisa. In January, Britney announces that she's pregnant, and she posts a letter to her fans on her website saying that when she said she was taking a break, she meant that she was taking a break from being told what to do, and she felt more in control than ever. She goes on to describe the positive experience she had with the second single from My Prerogative, which was Do Something, and suddenly I'm in new clothes and no one noticed. The track itself was pretty different from anything that she'd released before, and as one of the new songs from the compilation, it got really positive reviews from critics. However, it wasn't ever meant to be a single. Britney's label didn't believe in this song at all. They thought it would for sure flop, so they didn't want to put any money into it. But Britney really believed in this track, so she made it happen. She co-directed the video with Billy Woodruff, who you'll remember as the famous R&B video director who worked on Born to Make You Happy and Overprotected. She also did the choreography and the styling using Juicy Couture clothing. And this video is very inspired. There's a flying pink Hummer with Louis Vuitton interior, which did get Britney's label sued. So there's Hello Kitty jewelry. It's kind of a perfect example of the McBling mid-2000s aesthetics. The track wasn't going to be released physically in the US, so they didn't release the video here, and 3 days before it released in the UK, it was leaked online. It performed well. It hit number 6 on the UK singles chart and 7 on the European Hot 100, and even though it didn't come out physically in the US, it got enough digital downloads to make it to 100 on the Hot 100. A lot of what happens in the space between now and when the Blackout era comes is personal stuff that we've seen recorded a million times over, so I will be skipping those things, and you can fill in the gaps with one of the millions of documentaries if you feel inclined. From May to June 2005, Britney and Kevin Chaotic airs on UPN. That's the show I brought up before briefly as the thing that was supposed to be a Britney documentary. The show was filmed on a handy cam, mostly by Britney. It's a very personal look into her life. You see a lot of Kevin, of course, as this was filmed when they first got together and he was on tour with her. It was very clear from the show that Britney was absolutely in love with him, and she really wanted that nuclear family, picket fence somewhere that's green, idyllic family with him. Since this was pretty much made by Britney and the cameras can simply be turned off whenever she wants, it gave the public a look into the real, wholesome Britney as she wanted to be seen.
People can take everything away from you, but they can never take away your truth. But the question is, can you handle it? Can you handle my truth? Can you? I don't know.
But still, the show didn't end up doing anything positive for her image. The show was only 5 episodes of basically home footage of everything that had gone on with Britney since the tour. It documents her falling in love with Kevin, proposing, ending with the finale that covers their surprise wedding. It didn't perform well either. The first night had almost 4 million viewers, and it lost nearly half of it within 1 month of airing. In that last episode, a new Britney song titled Someday is debuted. This song will be released as the only single from the Chaotic EP, which also featured Mona Lisa and the theme song for the show. Britney wrote this song as a ballad for her baby right before she actually found out she was pregnant, so she describes the song as a prophecy. The music video was very sentimental. It was shot in black and white, and it featured a pregnant Britney with some angelic imagery. The song wasn't released in the US as a single, but it charted in several other countries and received mixed reviews. The next month, Britney would give birth to her first son, Sean Preston Federline. And the Chaotic EP would be released, and there's also some remix compilations that come out and stuff, but I find those mostly unimportant, so I'm just not going to mention them. The EP performs pretty well. It goes to 150 on the Billboard 200 and number 4 on the Billboard Dance and Electronic chart. By January 2006, Britney announces on a last-minute Letterman appearance that she is pregnant again, only 4 months after giving birth to her baby Sean. Shortly after, her career hiatus is broken when she guest stars on Will and Grace. She plays a conservative talk show host who reveals to the main character that she's actually gay and not conservative and is simply trolling for money. In August, Britney appears at the Teen Choice Awards for a very excited crowd where she introduces a performance by her husband, Kevin Federline. He performs a song from his forthcoming album, the critically panned Playing with Fire. She and Kevin also appeared remotely on the VMAs a week later, and this whole clip is very awkward. They get no applause.
Britney Spears and Kevin Federline.
How's my hair, baby?
And then Jack Black bombs his joke.
And we have alerted the tiny police. Oh man, I screwed that up.
It is so embarrassing to watch. I love Jack Black, but everything about this clip is painful. And that same month, she posed 8 months pregnant and nude on the cover of Harper's Bazaar, and she began recording for the next album. But wait right there, we're not moving on just yet, because in September, her second son, Jaden James Federline, is born, and only 2 months later, Britney legally files for divorce from Kevin, citing irreconcilable differences, and this is where we enter the Blackout era. Blackout is an era in Britney's career that is remembered mostly by the general population for her personal struggles. After she started working on this album, her divorce became the hottest topic. The paparazzi that already hounded her were trying to get even more and push even further. That constant harassment paired with postpartum depression after having 2 children back-to-back so young and now being alone, Britney's mental health deteriorated right in front of everyone. After the divorce, Britney started to go out and party again, and this is when she was seen with Paris Hilton all the time, and the upskirt paparazzi picture was the next big thing. You know, like sexual harassment. She got lots of backlash for this because everyone with no business of their own to mind was wondering why she was out partying with a newborn and a 1-year-old at home. From there, the situation just got worse. People watched their TVs and computers as the person who was once America's sweetheart, the most in-demand pop star of her generation, publicly struggled to handle the death of a very close relative, dealt with postpartum depression, shaved her head, fought back at the paparazzi who relentlessly harassed her and put her child in danger, which was something they claimed to care a lot about. And when she sat in public sobbing, they kept recording. Magazines reported that without her music or endorsements, she was living on her perfume money, which was allegedly drying up a bit at that point. But much to their surprise, in an attempt to get back to dancing and performing her music, Britney did a small tour. The M&M's tour was a series of 6 less than 20-minute shows at much smaller venues than anything Britney had been in for a while. The name was meant to represent the new stage of Britney's life, Mom and, once again, Miss. She wore simple outfits, just a pink bra with a denim skirt, some sparkly thing over the bra, a fluffy white coat, black dress, white go-go boots. She was wearing wigs. First few shows, it was a brown one, and towards the end, it was a blonde one. And on the topic of wigs, right after she'd shaved her head, she wore a pink one and a blonde bob wig. So this era definitely sees Britney experimenting with wigs and hair colors more than ever before. She did show up late for some of these shows, and she wasn't actually singing. They were just playing a CD of her songs, and she would dance to them, and she would even be chewing gum sometimes. But all the fan accounts that I've read of these shows says that the energy was really positive and fun, and everyone had a good time and enjoyed themselves, and it was really cheap, so, you couldn't really complain. She was, however, doing some of the original choreography, including Slave for You, but obviously she's not doing that VMA level performance at this time. But I think most people who were there knew that she was obviously going through a lot, so it wasn't really the time to complain. They were just happy to see her on stage again. Also from this time, a random Britney thing that I saw forever ago on Pop Culture Died in 2009. Britney posted on her website asking her most diehard fans to help her name her new album, and the options went as follows. OMG, is Lindsay Lohan okay like? What if the joke's on you? Down, boy. Integrity. And dignity. Now, obviously option number 1 is in reference to this, but I want to talk about dignity. Is that some Hilary Duff shade I see? So let's talk about this album. She started working on it before she actually filed for divorce and finished it after she did the M&M's tour. Britney executively produced this album, and this was, at the time, the most control she'd ever had on an album. And because she wrote so much on In the Zone, I think that her creative control over Blackout is often overlooked because of how hands-off she was. But hear me out. She picked pretty much all new people to work with, told them what she wanted, which was something completely impersonal and danceable. She had writers like Carrie Hilson, Sean Garrett, Pharrell, and producers like Bloodshy and Avant and Danger leading the way. And in such a chaotic time for Britney, I think having this executive control over this art was really important to her, and what she got out of it was essentially the late 2000s pop Bible. A perfectly impersonal and danceable album. She wrote less of it, but it's by far her most cohesive record to that point. Now that the album's made, it's time to arrange the comeback. Britney's home is the VMAs. We know this. Everyone knows this. It shows that everyone knows this because in the few years leading up to the 2007 VMAs, viewership had fallen and the budget was a lot tighter. MTV's plan to get back on everyone's TV was to open the 2007 show with the return of none other than Miss Britney Spears. The performance was planned to be huge, a big magic trick in the middle by none other than Criss Angel Mind Freak. But as the show got closer, the plans devolved. The whole Criss Angel segment was scrapped. I've seen it speculated that MTV didn't approve it, Britney's team didn't approve it, there were scheduling conflicts, or the hate train's favorite, that Britney wasn't going to rehearsal. Then there were problems with the wardrobe, the details of which are not known, but what we do know is that this wasn't the planned look of the evening. And then her hairstylist reportedly bailed last minute, and we are left with the not award show ready micro-link extension look. So this is how we're going into the comeback performance. Pure chaos.
If you're looking for trouble.
The show opens up with Britney singing a line from an Elvis song.
If you're looking for trouble, just look right in my face.
And then the world debut of everyone's favorite line.
It's Britney, bitch.
The camera pans out to show her in a bedazzled bra and underwear with piercing blue contacts. She looks really nervous, really anxious, really uncomfortable. And I mean, you can't blame her. The last time she was on stage was the Onyx Hotel tour, which was in 2004. It is 2007. The last time she was on stage, the camera phone was all the rage. Now people are in the audience with iPhones. Reports said she was super upset after she got off stage and she was asking everyone if the audience hated her. It's kind of hard to watch the video in the context that she obviously did not want to be there. But outside of that context, I couldn't help but notice that it's not that bad of a performance. This just goes to show how high the bar was raised by Britney for these performances, because I've seen much worse. Much, much worse. And I think there's a lot of artists that could get away with a performance like this. But of course, that context of her personal life was really central to this entire thing. So this performance was universally panned. Everyone made fun of her. They made fun of her hair, her facial expressions, her contacts, her outfit, her choreography, her lack of choreography, and of course, her body, and calling her fat. Which we need to talk about for a second, because this is a woman who just gave birth to 2 children back to back and had a publicly very, very shitty year. And on top of that, most of her existence in the public eye has taken place while she was still growing. You don't stop growing till you're 25. Britney was 25 at this point. She had spent the last 3 years not performing, and most of what people saw as Britney's good body was just her being 17 to 22 years old. She literally grew 2 children in her body. If you expect her to have the tight stomach of a 16-year-old, you need to get a grip. But the comeback was blown, and the hate train came again, just ready to watch this release fail. And the immediate backlash for this performance, of course, led to the very, very famous Leave Britney Alone video, where Britney fan Cara Cunningham said she didn't want to see Britney be torn apart by the media and have the same fate as the late Anna Nicole, who had passed only 7 months earlier in February at only 39 years old.
Leave Britney alone!
But we must note that this performance is the world premiere of It's Britney Bitch, which is now, of course, a Britney signature, and it wasn't even really supposed to be on there. It was just a joke that ended up working. So this song is, of course, our first single, Gimme More. And the music video that went with it was kind of shrouded in rumors at the time. Some say the original plot was a funeral where Britney was in a casket, but also in attendance, and then she leaves and then goes to this club where she's a dancer, and this guy is trying to catch her or something. Point is, it was allegedly going to be darker. But depending on who you read it from, either Britney didn't like the idea and refused to comply and wouldn't film the scenes, or she lost interest and didn't want to film certain parts anymore, or they were fully filmed and she decided against them because it was too much, or it was never even a thing and people just saw her in this little veil headband and made it all up. There is this photo of a casket that was allegedly taken from the set, but I've also seen it said that that photo was from something completely different. But we could go on and on about this. But the video that we do get is iconic. It doesn't have much going on. There's 2 of Britney, a blonde one at the bar, and a bad girl version with tattoos on the stage working the pole. This lack of choreography got her torn apart by the press. They absolutely hated this video. They thought it was the worst thing ever. But I think it's obvious that there was a direction that someone tried to go in here with this era. There was supposed to be an Elvis character in the video and some more Elvis imagery in it, which is why there was that little Elvis intro at the VMAs. Remember how I carefully slipped in that piece of information? So there was something meant to go on here. But I just wish I could see the world where everything went super smoothly and she did the big performance with the Chris Angel magic trick and she had the perfect Britney hair and some epic wardrobe and the vision just fully came to life. And I just wonder what would have happened. When the album drops, it receives positive reviews from the critics. Like I said, most cohesive album to date. Such great songs on this. The production is next level. It's just a dream to feel in your ears. It gave us staple Britney songs, Gimme More, Piece of Me, Radar, Break the Ice, and those are just the first 4 tracks on the album. If you haven't listened to this record all the way through, you need to do that. It's required listening in music history. Toy Soldier, Hot as Ice, Get Naked. This album was something experimental for Britney, but she just had this confidence in the songs that just felt totally comfortable. And this album is like the prophecy for what would come in pop music for the end of that decade and the beginning of the next. It debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200 and it remained on the charts for 34 weeks. Now again, when we look at this dreaded chart, you will see that this looks like a total flop. This album was severely discredited when it came out by the general population. And you know, there were also people who just wanted to ignore her because the culture around celebrities was pretty cruel at the time. So to some people, she was just more of a star of yesteryear who was now used as a punchline. The next single of this song would be Piece of Me. Once again, a classic Britney song, and one of the only ones from this album that's personal to Britney. Not personal in the sense that she wrote it herself, but there are several clear references to actual tabloid stories about her, and it's very clearly about her life. Sure, some other stars can relate, but this is Britney's song for sure. The song opens with the lines, "I miss American Dream since I was 17. And then there's the famous chorus. The music video is Britney dancing in the club with a bunch of Britney clones, and there's paparazzi, tabloids, very topical. Much, much, much more well received than the Gimme More video. I love the costuming in this video, the dress, the destroyed denim by Christine Dolce. But of course there were still complaints that me against the music, toxic level dancing that she was doing pre-pregnancy had not made its reappearance. So just as Britney gets a win, something goes wrong. Britney's 16-year-old little sister and star of Nickelodeon's Zoe 101, Jamie Lynn Spears, is pregnant. This was huge news at the time. People were boycotting the show, parents were pissed, and I feel like this may have been one of the catalysts for the massive wave of teen pregnancy media in the late 2000s and the early 2010s, which I am making a video about, so no one steal that idea because I will know. So after this, Britney takes a kind of career break, and only a month later, in January 2008, Britney will be placed under a conservatorship by her father, Jamie Spears, and her lawyer, Andrew Wallet, who argued that she used drugs and had dementia, making her unfit to care for herself. This has been covered heavily on YouTube and in documentaries. If you feel like you must know, you can find it out. But again, not a video about her personal struggles. She is thankfully free now. But I want you to keep that mentally unfit bit in your mind as we continue talking about the things that Britney will accomplish in the next 10 years of her career. In the midst of all of this, a poll was run on the Jive Records website for fans to vote for the next single from Blackout. Fans chose Break the Ice, with Toy Soldier coming in a close second. Initially, there was going to be a whole music video for a remix of the song featuring Fabulous, and it was going to have a stronger-esque chair dancing sequence, but obviously due to the circumstances, that could not be done. So the story goes that Britney opted to do an animated video instead. There were obviously no performances, but there was also no promotion at all for this single. So it didn't do very well, and this incredible song that definitely could have been a huge hit only sold 10,000 units, making it her worst performing single to date at that point. It did chart though, and it hit #1 on the US dance charts. And it's obvious that Britney loves this track too because she performs it on every tour. That summer was kind of riddled with personal problems, and this is where the Sam Lufty situation occurs and the drama with Adnan, and of course her court date comes and goes. So it may seem like I'm kind of flying through this era, but I want you to know that in the parts that I'm skipping, there wasn't nothing happening. There was a lot happening, but you know that already. And if you don't, pick any streaming service or deep dive or an article. In Britney's career, she made a soft comeback when she guest starred on How I Met Your Mother. And she did so good. I love her performance in this episode. I wish she'd done more comedy roles because I love her in this. Everyone that worked on the show spoke really highly of her. Jason Segel and Allison Hannigan both said they didn't expect Britney to be so naturally funny. And she actually improvised some of her lines, and she had everyone on set laughing.
I stopped. I stopped for coffee and I thought I'd grab you something.
Oh, wow, thank you. That's so nice. You're like a knight. I should call you Sir Ted.
What?
Nothing.
And she kind of saved How I Met Your Mother. This was only the second episode back after the show shut down during the writer's strike in 2007-2008, which the creators of the show were a part of. And this episode had 1 million more viewers than the actual comeback episode, and even more than the episodes prior to the strike. And she went back a couple months later and filmed another episode, which also performed really well, so soft comeback was a success. That summer, Britney's dealing with court, and she's recording the next album, which is Circus. This would be the actual comeback era, which oddly enough is able to start off on a much better foot because she's reaping the benefits of the success of that last album at the 2008 VMAs. She looks incredible here. And this night, 1 year after she was made the laughingstock of the award show, Britney wins every award she's nominated for. And this would be her very first Moon Man. No, I did not misread that. First, 10 years of dominating MTV. And let us not forget getting them their viewers back at the award show last year, all with no recognition. She also took home the most awards that night, including the most important one, which is Video of the Year, presented by none other than Kobe Bryant, which is the most 2008 sentence I can imagine saying. It's like last year, so much happened at this VMAs involving the host Russell Brand, but that is a conversation for another time. She got a standing ovation from the audience. She looked fabulous in her Versace, and everyone was like, oh yeah, it's comeback time. She is looking great again. Britney's back. The official date for the Circus album recording is summer 2008, but some of the songs / a lot of the songs, ? Are just rejects from Blackout. Womanizer is a specific one that comes to mind, and it's pretty obvious when you listen. The two albums are really sonically similar, and the songs have mostly the same writers, but different producers. And the ones that aren't Blackout songs kind of stick out to me because there's just something distinctly more Femme Fatale than Blackout if you were to put the songs on a spectrum. Like, compare Kill the Lights, which is a confirmed Blackout reject, with a song like Rock Me In. This is a 13-track album, including the bonus track, which is a re-release of Radar, which was on Blackout, as you'll recall. She actually had a contractual obligation to release this song as a single, but of course, due to personal matters, she never got around to it during Blackout. But I think a lot of people still kind of see Radar as a Blackout era song. But I don't know, I'll let you decide. The lead single of this album would be Womanizer. Post-VMA, everyone is so excited and ready to get their main pop girl back because she was looking like that 2001 beloved icon Britney Spears from the outside looking in. The song entered the charts at number 96, and later that week, the video is released. This is one of Britney's more creative videos. It's a continuation of the story told in the Toxic video, of course also directed by Joseph Kahn. Basically, this guy thinks he's playing her and hooking up with a bunch of different girls, but really it's just her in a wig. And we get some choreo, which we haven't seen since Piece of Me. Admittedly, it's quite obviously made on a tighter budget than Toxic was, with most of it likely going towards the actually kind of impressive special effects and editing tricks. Director Joseph Kahn tried to get a bigger budget from her label, but was allegedly told, why would we give more money to a crazy person? Which, disrespect aside, that's not how it works. It's not like they would just hand Britney a sack of money and go, all right, use this for the video, and then it's like up to the honor code on whether or not she does it. Like, despite Jive Records' apathy, the single blew up. This was officially the comeback era. The song got insane reviews, fans loved it. In physical sales, the numbers didn't look great. Of course, nothing post In the Zone really does. But it was her highest selling digital single to date. And within only 1 week, Womanizer climbed from 96 to number 1, beating out Live Your Life for fastest jump to number 1 in history. And it wasn't just the US, of course. This song went top 10 in every single country that it charted in. When I say comeback, I mean it. So leading up to the highly anticipated release of this album, there's a whole little rollout planned. The MTV doc would drop, Britney would return to an award show stage at the Bambi Awards, and then on Britney's birthday, December 2nd, the album would release, and she would have this big celebration on Good Morning America, and it would be a whole thing. But the digital age caught up to them very quickly, and some tracks were leaked onto YouTube. They tried to work against this, but the internet was a lot more Wild West back then, especially pertaining to copyright on YouTube. So they changed up the release schedule, and the album dropped on November 28th. It got really good reviews. Of course, it was no Baby One More Time, but for the first time in Britney's career, she sees an increase in sales from the last album to the new one. So it's very obvious that the public was much more favorable to her now than they were during Blackout. This is also due in part to the aforementioned MTV documentary. I'm going to talk about the documentary, but first, I have some more things to say about this album. Aesthetically, I'd say this album has the most cohesive theme and universe that it takes place in. But I do have to say that it is a least favorite of mine. The production quality on this album is lower than her others. I've seen people talk about this kind of in respect to the change in vocals that seems to happen here, and this ends up being the kind of Britney sound that we get on all post-2010 Britney albums. I don't know, listen, I'm no producer, but I'm just saying it sounds thinner than her other albums, not just vocally. Like, it's just so weak, especially following something like Blackout, which sounded so beautiful. But there's still so many incredible songs on here that I will continue to dote on, but I just needed to say that, so let me know if you feel that way about Circus too. So, Britney for the record. This was initially supposed to come out before the album, but because of the early release, it came out 2 days after, on November 30th. The documentary shows us the ins and outs of Britney's stressful life and schedule. I unfortunately cannot use any audio, and I'm even nervous about using video from it, but it's very easy to find online if you Google the title of the film. It should be one of the first things that comes up. We see her nervous and excited for that VMA appearance where she won her first awards. We see her ecstatic to be back to normal. She says she hates it when people call it a comeback. She talks about all of the personal struggles, the breakup with Justin, the divorce from Kevin, shaving her head, regrets, fame, paparazzi. There's even Lin-Manuel Miranda. All of that you can see from watching the film. This doc was filmed super early into the conservatorship, and it seems that they had her convinced that this was only temporary, and if she did good with this comeback, she would be free again, and more importantly to her, she'd be able to see her sons. And that's why I think Britney says things in this doc like, I'm tired of people saying I'm a victim of my fame. I hate that. Because she was trying to see the light at the end of that tunnel and look forward to a future where she was back to normal. And you can see it as this era continues that she's going so hard. She's dancing her ass off, working her ass off.
I go through life like a karate kid.
On the intended album release date, aka her birthday, she's at Good Morning America putting on a whole concert with more choreography than we'd seen from her in years. Circus comes out as the next single before the end of the year, and she's doing so much TV press. She goes and lights the tree at the Rockefeller Center, and then we start the four-legged tour, The Circus, starring Britney Spears.
Do you like the circus? Do you like the circus?
This tour was everything. The stage is set up like a circus. It's in the middle of the crowd. There's 2 B stages connected by a catwalk, like a 3-ring circus. There were 5 acts: The Circus, House of Fun, Freak Show, Peep Show, and Electro Cirque, followed by an encore. This intro is so legendary. She kills Perez Hilton and then comes down on a sparkly ring dressed as a ringleader. I have to say though, I do wish that she had kept this full costume on for longer, like at least for the whole song. But they had everything in this show. Acrobats, martial artists, people on stilts, unicyclists, magicians, clowns. Some people said that this was a detriment to the show because it was too much and it took away from the actual performance and they wish she'd done something more laid back. But like, she's Britney Spears. The first leg, the third leg, and all of the shows in her 8 nights at London's O2 Arena were completely sold out. Her opening acts for this tour included the Pussycat Dolls, Girlicious, Sierra, Christina DeBarge, Jordan Sparks, and DJ Havana Brown. She toured to Australia for the first time ever on this tour, and before the shows, the Minister of Fair Trade said that there should be disclaimers on the promotional material saying that she was lip-syncing. And there was just so much mouth running going on, specifically in Australia at this time. Like, every city just had some journalist lying that there was a mass exodus of the audience once Britney came out and lip-synced, and then they were all disproven. And it was just so ungrateful. No, but for real, lip-syncing is a whole different conversation to be had, especially concerning Britney, but I will not be leading it. I personally say if I'm seeing Britney Spears in concert, I'm going to see Britney Spears. I'm going to be singing so loud that I am not going to hear her anyway. It's a performance. Now, seeing Adele or someone like that, I'm gonna shut my stupid mouth and listen to the vocals. Other complaints were that she wasn't dancing like she used to, but the dancing prime was damn near 10 years ago at this point, so it's like, get over it, you know? Like, can you just enjoy the show, fucking Nigel Lithgow? Regardless of these complaints, the masses loved it. Remember, this is her first time doing an actual tour since Onyx Hotel Tour in 2004. Nothing in the world could beat the sheer excitement and joy that her fans had when she was finally back on the stage doing her thing. She looked awesome and happy, and the show was fun, which in my opinion is all that really matters for a live show. And like I said, it was sold out for nearly the whole tour, and it became the 5th highest grossing tour of the year, and the 5th highest grossing tour for a female artist ever. The costumes for this show were done by D Squared. D Squared is an iconic fashion house. They dressed Madonna for some of her Drown tour. They dressed Christina for her strip tour. They did Beyonce's look for the 2016 Super Bowl halftime. And they said a really important element of these costumes that they made for Britney was their abandonment of the circus theme. They wanted something more provocative and surprising. But to me, this is just a missed opportunity. I think the D Squared does awesome looks, but I really do wish they'd gone with someone more campy and just really played up that circus element with the costumes. I think Dream Within a Dream and Onyx Hotel were really good about having costumes that looked super Britney, but also matched the theme of the tour. And these ones, in my opinion, just don't look super anything. But anyway, enough with my opinions. The tour went on for most of 2009, starting in March and ending in November. During that time, the 3 remaining singles from the album and their respective music videos were dropped. The first is the very controversial If You Seek Amy.
If you seek Amy. Doesn't make any sense, does it? It's not supposed to. If you say it quickly, with no space in between the letters, it basically spells out the F word and then me. So it's all the girls and boys are begging to the F word and then me.
Of course, the title is an innuendo, which is very upsetting. We get it. No one cares about your children. And you know, as someone who was a children at this time and was exclusively friends with other children, I never even noticed that about the song. So my anecdotal evidence would suggest that the lyric did no harm to the youth of America. Case closed, moving on. Actually, before we move on, I have to make you aware of this part of that clip that for some reason exists.
My 9-year-old is singing Viva Viagra.
The music video, which premiered on Britney's website, opens with a little parody of that news segment. Also, I have to rave about this look. American Apparel metallic leggings, this lattice corset from a lingerie company called Bordel, and these, at the time, still unreleased, fresh off the runway Louboutin Dillion flower pumps. The song peaked at number 19 on the Hot 100, and it stayed on the chart for 20 weeks. Several months later, the next single is our revived Radar. And I understand why the label was so set on this being a single. It's really fun and catchy, and the video is a little vibe. It was directed by Dave Meyers, who did Lucky. There's no choreo, she's just at the Polo Mansion. There's all kinds of diamonds, it's very old money. Dave Meyers said that people were used to seeing Britney in sexy, raunchy settings, but she can also be sexy while doing elegance and class. I was doing completely fine with this video until they added in these sexy horse shots. Like, what was that? No, but this song didn't perform super well on the charts. It went to number 88 and was on the chart for 3 weeks. A lot of fans say they wish Radar would have just been left alone and the 4th single would have been a ballad, specifically Unusual You. And Unusual You is one of the best songs on this album, but I don't think the radio would have been crazy for it at the time, honestly, so I can see why they put their money on something like Radar. During the fall award show season, she takes home her 10th Teen Choice Award presented by Miss Miley Cyrus. And despite appearing in the promotional material for the VMAs, Britney only appeared remotely to accept her video for Best Pop Video for Womanizer at the VMAs. So I don't know if she was initially meant to go and then didn't, but yeah, she was used in all the ads. The final single in the Circus era was 3. And I felt insane when I was listening to Circus and 3 wasn't there, because I really could have swore it was on that album. But it wasn't. It was actually from her second compilation album that came out in November of 2009 titled The Singles Collection. Now, to describe this song without losing my green dollar sign, I'll just say it describes an Eiffel Tower situation. If you know, you know, and if you don't, try Urban Dictionary or something. This song is 3 minutes and 33 seconds long and was her 3rd number 1 single, also holds the Guinness record for number 1 with the shortest title. Despite not having any promotion from her label, it did really well on the charts up against songs like Bad Romance and Party in the USA, which were dominating at the time. This song kind of felt like it came out of nowhere because it was just this perfect timing. She was wrapping up this huge comeback tour and everything. The stars just aligned and it was great. But despite being played so much during its release and being so popular, even more popular at the time than well-known songs like Radar, it kind of is a forgotten song of hers today with a fraction of the streams of her other hits, which is really interesting. I think it's because it's on that compilation and not on an album. So they'd done it. They successfully did a comeback. Now what? Remember how I told you they were kind of stringing Britney along in hopes that she would get her kids back? Well, as we know, that did not happen. And post-Circus would start the real nightmare that Britney was living in for the last decade. She was given lithium against her will, and everyone began to notice that something was different. And this is a video about Britney's legacy, not her personal situation that I'm sure we don't even know a tenth of. But the Femme Fatale era is one that's really darkened because of her treatment at this time. So while her comeback was in full swing and everyone was loving the music she was releasing, it was all kind of against her will, and they were pretty much just using her as a vessel for making money. So with that in mind, let's talk about the Femme Fatale. In 2010, while Britney was away not releasing anything and guest starring on the Britney tribute episode of Glee, there was something not new, but newly mainstream bubbling up. EDM music. Basshead. You've got Basshead and the classic Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites.
Yes! Oh my god!
SoundCloud's taking off. You've got loads of DIY DJs making music with personal computers on a grand scale, the likes of which had never been seen before. There was a lot of electro house type music playing on the radio, like the G6. And it was only a matter of time until this popular genre began to bleed over into pop music. Of course, Rihanna's probably the pioneer of this with her masterpiece Loud, but the huge boom in pop EDM music wouldn't come until late 2011. And who was doing it in early 2011? Rihanna and who? That's right. And they even did a remix of S&M together, which we'll get to. Britney may have had her comeback in the Circus era, but in the Femme Fatale era, you could not get in the car without hearing a Britney song. She was everywhere in pop music at this time. She was back at the top, so to speak, and her situation with the conservatorship was, for the most part, unknown to the general public. There were fans who were very up to date and on their toes about the whole situation since it began, but most people had no idea there was even anything going on after she got better. Her voice sounded a little different and the music had a different vibe to it, but people liked it and it made a big impact on pop music at the time. But it is believed that Britney does not like this album. She wanted to originally make another hip-hop inspired album like In the Zone, but her label wanted to capitalize on what was big at the moment rather than take a chance. So she was kind of just doing her job musically without having any creative say in the art that she was the face of. And I can't imagine why she wouldn't hate this album. Imagine having a whole vision of your art, something that's supposed to be an uninhibited expression of self, and then having someone come in and go, actually no, the kids are listening to Skrillex now, sorry. But forgive me, Father, because I love these singles. Taking over the #1 spot from Bruno Mars' smash hit Grenade was the lead single from this album, a dance track titled Hold It Against Me. This song is euphoric. The production on the last album was thin, but this one was nothing of the sort. The song was produced by and written by Kesha. This song shot to #1, and it made Britney the second artist behind Mariah Carey to debut several songs at #1. It broke Taylor Swift's record for most downloads in the first week by a female artist, and y'all, I mean, tell me this isn't a masterpiece. The video has nothing at all to do with the song, which isn't uncommon, but she's literally in hand-to-hand combat with herself and in a wedding dress with neon paint. I know that it's meant to represent her super fast rise to fame, followed by her fall from grace, battling her demons, and ultimately getting a revival, but it just feels so random and disconnected from this song. It premiered on MTV, followed by a little interview, and this would be the last video of hers to premiere this way. The end of an era. Now that I've expressed to you my deep and undying love for this song, I want to say that I completely understand why Britney wouldn't like these tracks. What does Britney love to do most? Possibly more than singing and performing. Dance. And the way Britney dances, I think, just doesn't align with this song or really any of these songs. A dance break to a beat drop is not the same as a dance break to a musical breakdown. And I think that's what Britney was not only used to, but wanting. The second single was Till the World Ends. Now, if you were sentient at this time in the early 2010s, you know that every piece of media was about the apocalypse, and this song was no different. This song peaked at #3 on the Billboard charts and received critical acclaim. The video takes place on the day of the apocalypse, December 21st, 2012, of course. There's some choreo, she looks insanely good. Everyone's got on very dark colors, there's some embellishments, studs, sequins, and whatnot. And the setting kind of reminds me of Slave For You, the way everyone's supposed to look sweaty and grungy and they're dancing under the sprinkler thing. And this was her first video to debut on YouTube, which is the standard now. In between these singles, Britney does a Twitter Q&A to answer questions about the album. In the Q&A, she talks about how much she loves her kids, she wants to be in a Judd Apatow film, and she loves vanilla candles, which may sound irrelevant right now, but just wait. There's also a special announcement from Good Morning America that Britney will be performing for the first time ever.
Good morning, America. I'm excited to tell you on Tuesday morning, March 29th, I'll be performing for the first time ever in a special concert in San Francisco's historic Castro District on Good Morning America. And I promise you, it'll be a morning to remember. See you soon.
At the end of March, the album is finally here, the Femme Fatale. And this album is very heavily influenced by EDM music. Granted, it was really popular party music at the time, and Britney had been making club music, but the only song that sounds like classic Britney is Criminal. I don't know if that's an unpopular opinion, but that's just what I felt when I was listening to it. It isn't by any means a bad album, it's just definitely not a fan favorite or a Britney favorite. This would be her last album on Jive Records before they would be absorbed by RCA, which is owned by Sony, who has a very bad track record for not promoting their artists. at all. But we'll get to that. The album got good reviews and it debuted at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, her 6th album to do so, which tied her with Mariah Carey, Beyonce, and Janet Jackson. Critics really liked this album, and a lot of people were even upset that she wasn't nominated for a Grammy for Best Dance Recording for Till the World Ends. Like, I'm telling you, the critics love that song. The album comes out, she's doing her TV press, and of course it's time for her first time performing live ever on Good Morning America, which is the day the album is dropped in the US. I enjoyed watching this performance, but it is kind of obvious that there's something different, and that brings us to the documentary. I Am the Femme Fatale is an example of one of the stunts her camp pulled during this era that made fans really hate it. It's difficult to watch knowing what we know now and what some fans suspected even then. Even without the context, it's a weird watch. It's obvious she's not feeling like herself, and they're putting her in front of the camera and making her work, while also claiming that she's too mentally unfit to not only be in control of her own person, but to not be heavily medicated. The documentary cuts back and forth between the filming of the Till the World Ends music video and an interview with Sway. She talks about how she loves vanilla candles, and she talks about her sons, and at the end, when he asks her if she wants to be like Madonna and still performing when she's 50, she responds like this.
Down the line.
I hope so. Yeah.
Doing that then?
Yeah. Maybe just doing nothing, I don't know, but maybe.
Yeah.
I hope so.
It's genuinely hard to watch, and I can't believe they'd put her on camera like that and show their asses in such a public fashion. But then again, I mean, they got away with it for way too long, so. About a week later, an alternate cut of the Till the World Ends video titled Dance Till the World Ends is posted on Britney's YouTube. It just features longer dance cuts than the original, and on that same day, Britney gives her first ever feature on Rihanna's S&M. Rihanna's Loud era was a moment in pop history. She was the bad girl in pop music at this time. She was always coming with the sex, just like Britney. And the fourth single from Loud was S&M, a song littered with sexual references, but according to Rihanna, not meant to be taken too literally. The song, of course, was controversial. The music video was banned in 11 countries. It was the #1 song. It was a huge thing. So what better to do when you're controversial than bring in someone else that's controversial? So kind of like what Britney did with Madonna for Me Against the Music, Rihanna teams up with Britney Spears. This is an iconic song, an iconic remix, but I must say, Britney's verse is so explicit. Like, I don't know, Rihanna's was really suggestive, but look at Britney's verse. But this remix also went #1, and it's been 26 weeks on the charts. And a week after this, we get the life-changing, ground-shaking, earth-bending, pop culture shifting, Till the World Ends, Femme Fatale remix. This song featured Nicki Minaj and Kesha, who you'll remember wrote the song for Britney. And this is a 2010s masterpiece. I am pleading with you that after this video ends, first, you like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss a video. But after, go listen to this song. It isn't available on streaming for some bizarre reason, but go listen to it. You will not regret it. I wish I could just sit here and play it in its entirety right now, but I can't. I love this song. It went platinum on my Android in middle school. Phenomenal. But then Britney makes her return to the American award show stage in her first performance since the 2007 VMAs. She joins Rihanna to sing S&M, and she joins Nicki Minaj to sing Till the World Ends, introduced by Taylor Swift. Very iconic night. Britney looked gorgeous. She looked like she was having a good time. When she performed with Rihanna, she was wearing a black bodysuit with a little bunny mask. And with Nicki, she wore a little mini dress and a leather jacket. Very simple. One last thing before we get to the tour. Do you remember Britney's obsession with vanilla candles? On May 18th, the 5-minute and 13-second long video was uploaded to Britney's official YouTube page titled Welcome to Vanilla Flames. The video has no audio and features just a photo of the candle with a flickering flame for 5 minutes and 13 seconds. On her website, it was announced that for only 72 hours, you would be able to purchase one of these $25 8-ounce warm vanilla candles, which is one of Britney's favorite things. How does that look? Yeah. It's pretty much impossible, I think, to find one of these candles for sale online. I have to assume that there's one untouched in someone's closet or that there's just one sitting in someone's local Goodwill. So if you see it, buy it and tell me how it smells, because I was going to try and get one for this video, but they seem to hardly even exist on the internet. So I have this regular Not a Britney Spears favorite vanilla candle. Okay, now, the three-legged Femme Fatale tour. This thing is so bright, it looks like I have a star sitting on my desk. Too bright. It's still there, just imagine that it was lit. Okay, now the three-legged Femme Fatale tour. Starting in June 2011 and reaching 4 continents, she brought along special guests Nicki Minaj, Joe Jonas, and The Wanted, among others. This tour borrowed those same aesthetics as the Till the World Ends video, that apocalyptic vibe. It was separated into 5 acts: Femme Fatale, Sweet Seduction, Temptress, Codename Trouble, and Sexy Assassin. Femme Fatale, she comes out in a super sparkly embellished white bodysuit. Sweet Seduction, she wears a big hot pink shirt thing over a sparkly black bodysuit. Temptress seems to be inspired by ancient Egypt, and she wears a gold mirrored bra with bikini cut bottoms and a tiny jacket. Trouble, she wears this pink and purple studded leather jacket with the tattered shorts and a little hat and a sparkly purple and black bra. In Sexy Assassin, she wears a kimono, which she removes to reveal a black sparkly v-neck romper thing. And I think this tour marks the end of Britney's style evolution. Obviously, she had no access to her own hard-earned money to buy stuff for herself, and she had no control over the vision, as we discussed. So this is directed to the person who dressed her. This silhouette that she has here is the same silhouette that she's rocking in the residency performances. And I know that the leotard and bikini cut stuff is the standard for ladies' performance wear for some reason, but I just wish they would do something else. Anything else, even. In her old tours, there was this kind of signature Britney element, but nothing was ever the same twice. And I feel like this has been the same ever since this era. And this is obviously conservatorship related. Her team sucked so hard. They seem to be bad at most things, just from my observations making this video. Like, even that candle video, it seems small, but like, what was that? YouTube had been around for 6 years at that point. Get someone on your social media team who is literate in using one of the biggest platforms on the internet, or is at least able to figure it out and correct simple mistakes. At any point, they could just go into the YouTube Creator Studio and add sound into that video. It is very easy to do. Or they could trim the video down to a reasonable length, but no skills, just paychecks apparently. My complaints aside, this tour received mixed/positive reviews. You know the drill at this point. Some fans and general population were pleased, and some fans and general population wish she danced more, and da-da-da-da. The next single is another classic, I Wanna Go. This song was produced by old pal Max Martin and written by Savan Kotecha, 1D fans, you know. This song did pretty well both critically and commercially, becoming her 21st top 40 single, putting her in 3rd place behind Taylor Swift and Rihanna. I keep saying it, but it's true. This is an iconic video. She curses out the press.
F you, you're cool, F you, I'm out.
And then bludgeons the paparazzi by swinging her microphone. It's got the same punk-inspired aesthetic with the studs, the safety pins, the leather, the boots. She's got this Mickey Skull shirt on, possibly a reference to Mickey Mouse Club. I'm also obsessed with these jeans. At the VMAs that year, Britney is honored with the Video Vanguard Award. It was presented to her by Lady Gaga as Joe Calderone. You had to be there. This was the first presentation of the Video Vanguard Award that they had had since 2006 when they awarded Hype Williams with it. And Britney's was also the last one they did that wasn't like a huge display. There was a little tribute, and honestly it's probably better that Britney got to just relax and accept her award instead of stressing about a performance and stuff. But somewhere out there, there's a perfect timeline where someone else wins in 2011, and then in 2013, instead of Justin Timberlake winning, Britney wins, and she dominates the entire night. Because every year following this, the whole damn night was dedicated to that person. Like, Kanye's acceptance speech for his Video Vanguard Award was when he announced that he was going to run for president. Britney needs something that impactful. But like I said, tribute, there were dancers, they were all dressed in her most iconic looks. Also, I can't tell if these dancers are children or not. After the award show, she told MTV News that she had come up with an exciting concept for the final single of this era, Criminal. And this was another song that the critics loved from this album. Like I said, sounds the most Britney pre-EDM. And the film, was set in London. Britney and her lover are attending some sort of upscale party, and he's clearly a prick, so she tries to get away from him, only to return to find him cheating. She delivers an Oscar-worthy line.
So you're not working the street corner tonight, I see.
Upon which she is dragged out of the party and slapped in the face. Just then Scruffy Bad Boy, played by Britney's at the time real-life boyfriend Jason Trewick, kicks his ass, saves her, and then Britney kicks him in the balls, and they ride off to live a life of crime. The video ends in their house getting shot up by the police, but they escape. It was obvious that she was super into this video concept, and she looked super excited in the video, which was not something that we got from Britney a lot in this era. Also, while she's on tour, she releases her second remix compilation album, Be in the Mix Volume 2, and that's it for Femme Fatale, kinda. After the tour, she and Jason got engaged, and if you aren't caught up, again, lots of resources. The skinny on Jason is that he was basically in on it with her family and became her agent, and then once they became engaged, he became her co-conservator alongside Jamie. Summer of 2012, Britney was hired as a judge for the second season of the X Factor USA alongside Simon Cowell, L.A. Reid, and Demi Lovato. She became the highest paid judge on any singing contest show and actually mentored the runner-up, Carly Rose Sonnenclair. Everyone spoke really positively of her, but she didn't really talk that much. And Simon was like, oh my god, I brought on a judge who feels bad judging. Like, she was just too nice to say anything mean, so she did not return for a second season. But it was fun while it lasted.
To say no.
And everybody thinks I'm the mean one.
Now, this period of eras gets a little confusing with featured songs and then the residency and whatnot. But I did my best with trying to define each of these last two eras, so bear with me as we power through to the end, if anyone is even still watching. Veteran Britney fans, go easy on me, all I can do is try my best. The first song to come from this era, I would say, is Scream and Shout, which is her second feature ever, given to will.i.am. Technically, this song did come out in November 2012, which was while the X Factor was still airing, which would put it in the Femme Fatale era, but this is her first song back since, Criminal. So it's gotta be a new era, right? And it's a will.i.am song, and will.i.am is the executive producer for Britney Jean, so I rest my case, I'm right, anyone who disagrees is wrong. A month later, Britney begins working on the album, which she says is more hip-hop inspired than her last record. Soon after their announcement, she and Jason break up, and he is of course no longer her co-conservator. That summer, Britney's really working on the album, and from what I gathered, she was working with Bloodshy, Darkchild, Snoop Dogg, Danja, Esther Dean, a lot of those hip-hop producers that she had worked with on her last album and albums before that. But her team let her have even less control of the creative direction for this album than the last. So William Orbit, who worked with Madonna on Ray of Light, was brought in, as well as Naughty Boy. One Direction fans, once again, you know. And will.i.am was set to be the executive producer. On this album, Britney has a writing credit for every single song. There are people who question this for reasons I'll briefly mention in a moment, but I would assume that Britney was coming up with the concepts and/or chorus, verse, melody, etc., and then was credited for any and all contributions. Which, conspiracies about the writing credits aside, is something Britney should have been getting her entire career, and is the standard in music. To be listed as a songwriter, you can have only contributed one single line or word. It honestly doesn't matter. Some artists say they don't care, and so they just don't have anyone credit them, but technically you're a writer if you add something to the song. And through Britney's entire career, she would be given lyrics to sing in the booth, and she'd change them up to be more natural or more relatable, whatever, and she would just come up with something better to say to fit the song, and she never asked for writing credits. She would also come up with melodies, which is something Rihanna is well known for doing too, and they just never asked for credits. This isn't some kind of secret. Everyone in the industry knew that she did this. This was a thing that people talked about all the time, and she just didn't care about the credits because she felt like it was a small contribution. So if anything, these credits are just passed due. She also had some famous singers that were announced to be writing for her for this album, like Sia and Katy Perry. And in August of 2013, a countdown ending on September 17th titled All Eyes on Me was posted to Britney's website, and her fans were ecstatic. As the day drew near, Britney teased with writers and cover art until the 15th when she posted a tweet that read, "Woke up today and saw that a low-quality version of Work Bitch released." And she announced that the release would be moved one day forward. Now let's talk about this track. This is the EDM Girl Boss anthem. I do love this outfit from the video. I think these platforms look so good on her, and I love that they gave her pants for this look. But the style in this video is generally the same as something from the last era. Like I said, Britney's team just gave up on styling her after 2011, it seems. The song performed pretty well. It was no Baby One More Time, of course, but the critics liked it. It went to number 12 on the charts. It was her best first-week single since Hold It Against Me. Fans, however, weren't super happy with the way that the song was performing because they wanted it to have more impact. From all the stuff I've been reading, general population, critics, everyone seemed to be really ready for this new era. They heard this girl boss anthem, and they were like, something big is coming. That day, word got out that Britney was busing a bunch of fans to the Mojave Desert at the ass crack of dawn for something big. And this would be the countdown reveal. Breathe Heavy, which is a popular Britney fan forum, was blowing up all day with fans who were there and fans who were at home just waiting to see it all unfold. Everyone was ready for this huge sunrise desert performance. It's 4 in the morning. The 1,300 fans are all bussed out. They're wearing their white shirts. They've got one assignment: to hold these cards up in the sky as Britney flies in on a chopper. So they're out there, arms aching, holding up these posters, just waiting, daydreaming about this sunrise desert concert that they're about to get. Britney flies in, the TV cameras reveal the image from the cards to say that Britney will be hosting a 2-year-long residency at Planet Hollywood in Vegas titled Piece of Me. This is huge news, but first, the desert concert. Once Britney landed, she briefly addressed the audience and gave an interview, and then it was over. Britney's fans absolutely lost their shit over this. They were so sad that there was no performance, even though they were never told that there would be one. They just kind of assumed that if it was this big of a deal, that it would be something huge for them. But no, they were just free labor. It's also announced that the currently unnamed album would be released on December 3rd. So for anyone who isn't familiar, let's talk a little about residencies in Vegas. A residency is when an artist plays a series of concerts at one venue. These were popularized in the 50s and 60s, and they were kind of just used as events to get people into these Vegas casinos to kind of incentivize drinking and gambling. And the tickets were really cheap. And this is why artists like Cher had said once in the 70s that Vegas is where musicians go to die. It's actually Celine Dion who made it socially acceptable for a big, huge star to have a residency in Vegas. She reinvented it from a has-been whatever show to get people to the casino to a huge theatrical production that could fill seats all on its own. But as we know, Celine Dion is a ballad queen whose shows are more so about tearing the house down vocally. Not really that same young, millennial, party-type crowd that Britney draws, especially not with her last album. Keep in mind that this is famously an age group that does not have a lot of disposable income, so this was big. Would Britney be able to get those millennials and young Gen Xers into her shows? The answer is yes, but we'll get to that. After this, Britney gave her third, I think, feature ever to Miley Cyrus. In 2013, Miley is in her bangers era. This era was often compared to Britney's Britney era with the whole good girl goes bad thing, and Britney was featured on the track SMS Bangers. And I cannot help but notice how much this song sounds like Do Something. There are some clips of the recording of this from Miley's MTV doc. I'm not sure if I'll be able to play it because, first of all, MTV is nuts about copyright, and also they're playing the song in the background of the entire clip, so. But Miley tells Britney that she has music video ideas, and she wanted the song to be the third single following We Can't Stop and Wrecking Ball. Which, okay, I loved this song when it came out. I still love this song. I'll sing along wholeheartedly when it comes on. But I think I can accept that this just wouldn't have worked as a single. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, all kinds of stuff was on the radio at this time. But this song feels not at all like anything that she would typically release as a single. Maybe just the power of Britney would have been enough, but I remember when this song came out that I was like, where's the rest of the feature? Like, where are you hiding it? Like, where is she? So thinking of the songs we've gotten from Britney in this era thus far, we've got Scream and Shout, Work, and SMS Bangers. And even seeing the few looks we've gotten, it's very glam. I see the Vegas showgirl diva vibes. Something's definitely coming together. But not too fast, because then Britney drops Perfume, which I think she said is her favorite track on this album. And it is the song that Sia wrote on. Critics really liked the song. Even her haters were saying that it was the best song she'd released in years, and they would love to hear more ballads from her. And it is such a subversion of expectations after releasing such a dominant song like Work and all of those glam aesthetics that she had been giving us, to then do a song and a video that comes out where it's very dressed down, and all the locations even are a more laid-back version of that Vegas aesthetic. There's no type of choreography at all. It was directed by Joseph Kahn, who you remember always directed her no choreo videos. The song's really good. It's a very vengeful other woman type vibes, and I would have really loved a more intense video for the song with some more acting. Oh wait, in an interview with Video Static, Joseph Kahn said that his director's cut tells a completely different story than this fluffy video that was released. He said, "It sucks especially since my director's cut is an entirely different video. The released edit is missing half of the story and all of the editorial structure. It took a lot of serious salvaging of the footage to get it to an acceptable place after the concept was gutted. But it's such a faint reflection of the real narrative with broken execution and far less ambition. If they liked the weak version, I bet they'd love the strong one. No one knows what they're missing, and they're missing a lot." And allegedly, in the original concept for the video, Britney plays a hitman. In these leaked photos from the set, we see Britney brandishing a gun. She would take out several people in the video, as well as be instructed to take out the man she loves. Rather than take his life, however, she leaves town, knowing she will be found and taken out for what she's done. The cut we get depicts a small portion of the video that would come in at this part, where Britney spends one last night in the motel with her lover before committing the ultimate act of sacrifice. The video would end with Britney being found and killed by her boss's goons and her lover going on to live a happy life. But some of these clips were never filmed, and most that were didn't make it to the final cut. But this was apparently the original treatment from the video, which Britney's team thought would be too negative for her. So they changed it to what it is now. Her putting on perfume and crying. This song made it to 76 on Billboard, and this song and really the album at this point weren't getting a lot of promotion. Remember how I said RCA does that thing? I'm assuming they were all just too consumed by the residency to be bothered with it, aside from putting out music to perform on the residency. But on that note, I need to bring up a dreaded topic. I know Britney fans are so tired of hearing about this, but I have to mention it because it is the album. So one of the tracks, Passenger, was leaked onto YouTube weeks before the album dropped, and immediately people took to Twitter to air their concerns, namely that it didn't sound like Britney's voice. And this wasn't a new thing for Britney fans. I won't spend much time on this, but essentially the theory is that there are vocals on this album that are not Britney's. Also, I should note that it isn't unusual for a demo like the one that was released to be sung by a writer or another singer. Now, the matter of how much of the vocals are not Britney's or what the reason for this was is unknown and highly debated within the fan base. There are three main theories that I've come across for why this might have been done. Theory number one is that the album was a cash grab completely planned by her team in an effort to keep her working as hard as possible, releasing music, putting on shows, without actually having to make the music. Usually this is presented as though it was a threat from her team that they could and would make Britney albums with or without her, whether she liked it or not. Theory 2 says that Britney was just too busy to record, with everything going on in her residency. Most of the promotion for the album itself seemed kind of rushed, so it wouldn't be surprising to find out that the recording and production was the same way. will.i.am said in an interview that Britney would come in, knock out songs, and then have a plane to catch. She was super busy. And we will see and discuss how busy she was later in her documentary, I Am Britney Jean. So the idea is that Britney would go in and record the track, and when they tweaked the song or worked on it, let's say maybe they needed a slight tweak, or maybe entire sections of the song were unusable for whatever reason, so they would get one of Britney's background singers to fill in the gaps. The third theory is that Britney's voice is damaged. This one's pretty much the same as the last one, except it's not the time that's the problem. Britney's voice is damaged from forcing the baby voice for years, and she struggles to find her own true voice, so she does her takes, the other person comes in, fill in the gaps, so on and so forth. And this theory would extend to those features she did as well, Scream and Shout and SMS. When those songs came out, I vividly remember people asking why Britney had a British accent in it, and I personally thought that the parts of Scream and Shout that are like, when we're up in the club, I thought that that was a part of a sample or a part of the beat or something. Like, I didn't even think that, that was supposed to be a part of Britney's vocals. Granted, Britney does love a British accent. Regardless of what you choose to believe about the vocals on this album, I think we can all agree that it isn't Maya Marie's fault. It isn't Britney's fault, because Lord knows, Britney thought she was making a hip-hop album. And when I listened to the album, honestly, I wasn't even close to as confused as I was when I first heard Scream and Shout, so I don't know, who knows? Like I said, these are theories, and I'm not endorsing any of them. I'm just sharing them with you so that you can build a full picture of what this era was like. This whole ordeal, and kind of the album in general, is a big point of contention with many fans, especially when you factor in the desert concert. And they always just want to leave it behind them, so let's do that. No more Maya Marie. But what we do have to talk about is the album itself. I had never listened to this album before making this video. I mean, I had heard Work before, but nothing else, and I really had no clue what to expect. For my time looking at Breathe Heavy for information about the Desert Show, I saw a lot of people really hating this album. I did see some people who genuinely liked it, but it had a lot of negative comments from fans. So I went embracing myself, and when I was listening to it, I was like, oh, it's not even that bad. EDM music in general kind of stresses me out, and that was literally every song. And some were sneaky, like it would start off normal, and then all of a sudden it would just start building up to a beat drop. But other than that, I was completely unoffended by this album. That is, until I got to track number 9. Chillin' With You, featuring Jamie Lynn Spears. Now, regardless of what you feel about the authenticity of the vocals on this album, this song is a stain to the great legacy of Britney Spears. I cannot explain to you the pain that this song caused me. First of all, acoustic guitar that turns into a softcore dance beat. Then Jamie Lynn of the Zoe 101 theme song comes in, and I'm not positive what exactly happened with the production here. I'm assuming something involving a tin can, but yeah, that song is a crime. And everything else was fine to me, except for Brightest Morning Star. That one was also painful to sit through. I can definitely imagine people vibing to these songs though. People with those wing things on and one of those water bottle backpacks. This album got really mixed reviews from critics, and it produced her lowest sales ever at this point, underselling their already lowered sales projections. But even knowing that and how little promotion it received, it still debuted at number 4 and spent 11 weeks on the charts. Which, no, it's not a number 1, but some artists never get on that chart. Like, when you put into perspective how huge Britney is, it's like, can she even flop? The week leading up to the debut of The Residency, there's a 2-hour special on E! Titled I Am Britney Jean. This was your typical Britney biopic. It basically just showcased how overworked she was, with sound bites of her reassuring everyone that she loves working and would never not want to work on her birthday because working is so fun to her. And maybe she meant that, but given what we know now, it's suspicious. We see Britney planning stuff for tour, picking out songs, sets, learning choreography with new choreographers. It's also revealed in this documentary that the reason her desert appearance was so short was because she got sick from being in the helicopter. And she looks a lot happier in this one than she did in I Am the Femme Fatale. But some fans say that this was just a publicity stunt to make it seem like she was in control. The costumes for this show were very Vegas showgirl, of course, which is fitting for this era anyway. She does these crazy stunts. It's really a legendary show. And then The Residency starts. It was a commercial success. Critics loved it. The audience, of course, loved it. The opening night, there were so many celebrities there. Miley Cyrus, Katy Perry, Selena Gomez. This show was epic. It had a bunch of choreography, 7 acts. They were super carved out. The show flowed really well. It literally changed the Strip by opening up Vegas to a whole new generation of people who otherwise weren't really interested, because who has money to gamble like that? Between December and May of 2014, Britney completes 4 legs of The Residency, which was an instant hit, with the first 2 legs being completely sold out. At the end of those 4 legs, she gets a break for the summer, and the final single from Britney Jean is released, no music video. It goes number 46 on the dance charts. And here, I would say she enters into this space between eras where Britney Jean is over as soon as it possibly could be, and she comes back for the residency in August with some new costumes. It's announced that she renews her contract with RCA, and in the fall she starts working on her 9th album, but with no deadline set, so she has this freedom to work on it without worrying about the residency taking up too much time. So we'll call this the Vegas era. Around this time, she works with Iggy Azalea on a new song, and she's splitting time in the studio, doing the residency, being a mother, etc. It's very hectic. In May of 2015, Britney and Iggy released a song called Pretty Girls, which was written in part by Little Mix. And about a week later, the music video comes out. This video was based on the 80s film Earth Girls Are Easy. Iggy Azalea apparently references films in a lot of her music videos, and that's the one she came up for this one. And then Britney came up with the idea that she gives her a makeover, and then they go to a party and they're dancing and whatnot. Super cute video. I like Britney's outfits here. Like, she can clearly still kill that same silhouette she wore in the 90s. I do wish the costume department had gone a little harder with the 80s stuff instead of 80s inspired new pieces, you know? But I do understand that there is a budget, and this is a big video with several locations, so. This song did good. It went to 29 on the Billboard, 1 on the dance charts, and top 20 in several countries. This was the fastest video on Britney's channel to get to 100 million views. And 4 days later, they perform at the Billboard Music Awards. Very, very fun performance, got good reviews. Again, I think the costumes were lacking, but that's just me nitpicking. But we have learned, unfortunately, that this night was not a great one. Jamie Spears ambushed Iggy Azalea backstage right before the performance and told her that she had to sign an NDA or he wouldn't let her go on stage with Britney. So she did sign it, but today she says she doesn't care anymore because she witnessed Jamie firsthand being super controlling over Britney's career and obviously abusing his power. So after this, I don't know what happens, but at this point, Britney'd been working on this album for like 8 months, and she just decided that she did not like where it was going, so she got Karen Kwok to come in. And Karen Kwok had previously executively produced for August Alsina, and she was credited with seeking out and getting good producers and writers to come in and really help Britney flesh out her idea for this album. And Britney has said that this is one of her favorite albums she's ever made. Which, yeah, she could just be saying that, but this is a fan-loved album too, and it seemed like she was really in her zone for this album. She also gives another feature to DJ Giorgio Moroder on a remix of Tom's Diner. This is loved by Britney fans. She was really in an 80s vibe here, you can tell, in this sub-era. She was very inspired. So these are the vibes that we're getting into this final era. Glory. Starting with the revamped Piece of Me residency show, we get a little taste of the Glory era Britney. The costumes have stepped it up. She's got so much energy. She looks so happy, excited. She's dancing her ass off. And where the first part of Piece of Me was more like a greatest hits show, this one was just a Britney show with more fan favorites and less huge mega hits. And then we get the 2015 Billboard Music Awards. She was awarded with the 3rd ever Artist of the Millennium Award after Beyonce and the late great Whitney Houston. She performed a mega mix of her songs Work, Womanizer, I Love Rock and Roll, Breathe on Me, Slave for You, Touch of My Hand, and Toxic. She looks so stunning in this performance. Like, you've probably seen stills from this performance used all over the place. This was a huge moment for her. She looks awesome. Later that summer, after more residency shows, she starts to tease her new single featuring G-Eazy, and on the 15th of July, it drops. Make Me debuted at number 17 on the Billboard Hot 100, and it sold 96,000 units in the first week. The music video for this song doesn't come out until August, and they actually had to refilm after they did the original. It had a lot of sexual themes. It was really meta. It was directed by David LaChapelle, so of course, some controversy. They also did the photo shoot for the album on this day. It also did include a lot of imagery that was possibly a nod to the conservatorship, like being chained to the house and stuff. And this isn't really new for Britney. She does like to push the envelope and be a little sexy sometimes, but she has certain boundaries, and what those are, I have no clue, but she has several times chosen to redo or scrap smaller things because it was too sexy by her standards. And I'm not a prudish person in any way, but when I was watching David LaChapelle's cut of this video, I was like, oh wow. Because it's just sexual in a different way than Britney normally is. I don't know how to explain it. The new video was super simple. She and some friends audition guys. This isn't a video that fans were crazy about. I personally was like, but then I found out that it was a refilm and they did it kind of quick and it makes more sense. The song itself is good. I have no problems with Britney's parts. I personally found it kind of hard to sit through G-Eazy's verse, but that just might be my taste. I do not like the way that they integrated the sponsors into this video. It's very heavy-handed, to say the least. Like, it's obvious that they just took footage of them looking at the green screen from the audition part and plugged the ad into it, because why are they dancing to your logo? This redirected video was directed by Randy St. Nicholas, who was Britney's photographer since, I think, Femme Fatale. You can definitely see a similar quality across all of her photos from these periods. Very, very bright lighting, nearly overexposed at some points, and fans were often frustrated by her work. Sometimes it does produce these really beautiful photos, but other times it can look low budget. And Randy's photoshopping would get clocked a lot. She does have a really distinctive style, but that distinctive style can get a little repetitive 3 eras in a row with very, very similar costuming and the same photographer all the time. It gets really muddy. And I think it's really telling that since Britney has lost control of her work, there stopped being these mega iconic looks for the most part. Because she is the magic. She was the one that was having the great creative ideas. It's not enough to just put her up there and expect it to be the same when she's not the one with the reins. She was on air with Ryan Seacrest, Jimmy Kimmel, she did carpool karaoke, she went on the British TV shows for the first time since 2008, she did Apple Music Festival, Ellen, iHeart Music Festival, and if you needed any more evidence on how iconic this era was built to be, after the video premiere, Britney announced that she would be having a VMA comeback. There was this ad that referenced all of her big VMA moments, like the Madonna kiss, the Satisfaction costume, and of course the snake. But first, we must talk about the album Glory. Immediately upon listening to this album, you can hear that it has more of Britney's heart in it than Britney Jean. You could almost hear an energy in her voice that was not there for probably the last 2 albums. This album is super cohesive. It has one vibe that carries all the way through. It's a great modern pop record, especially for 2016. There are still some of those EDM elements that I do think age the album a bit, but overall, even the least streamed songs, in my opinion, are better than most songs on Britney Jean. And then there's songs like Do You Wanna Come Over, which I think has the vibe of an In the Zone era Britney song. This album is good. I think there's something there for everyone. Now, the VMAs. On the red carpet that night, she looked insane. This is one of my absolute favorite recent red carpet looks, possibly even a favorite overall. She looks so good here. Just simple black dress, the hair looks killer, the color is perfect. The performance was really simple compared to her past VMAs. I like how sparkly the outfit was, but I do think it just looks like another outfit from her residency. I know that there's not really a huge kind of theme that could be dressed up for this album or this song, as far as I could tell, but I do wish they'd found something just a little more fun or themed or something to do to make this more memorable. Like, she is a star. She is Britney Spears. She shouldn't be dressed how literally just anyone dresses on stage. Like, you know how in Cheetah Girls 2, when Marisol comes out and you just know that she's like the star just because of the way she dressed? I feel like that's the kind of vibe Britney was emanating before. And then with these looks, it just doesn't do that. Britney and G-Eazy performed Make Me, and then G-Eazy performed his song Me, Myself, and I, and Britney sings BB Rexha's part. She had so much energy, she seemed super pumped, and I guess she's comfortable on stage with G-Eazy, so that's all that matters to me, I guess. I do want to know what kind of pheromone oil G-Eazy is wearing around these women. After this, she's straight back to the residency until her next single, Slumber Party, featuring Tinashe. The music video for this song is Britney and Tinashe at this big mansion lingerie party thing, and the love interest character is actually played by Britney's now fiance, Sam. They met on the set of this video and have been together ever since. Good video, great song, I love the pre-chorus of the song, love it. She goes back to Piece of Me in Vegas, and then she goes to the People's Choice Awards and cleans up. She takes home every award that she was nominated for, and she's also the first ever recipient of the Radio Disney Music Awards Icon Award. There was this tribute performance they did for her with some newer Disney stars, Sophia Carson, Haley Seinfeld, Kelsey Ballerini, and a special guest who ended up being Jamie Lynn performing a rendition of her sister's hit Till the World Ends.
Like this before. Come on, get me on the floor.
Then, Britney announces that she will be touring internationally on a tour called Britney Live. She went to Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, the Philippines, Thailand, Hong Kong, Singapore, and Israel. Japan, I know that she hadn't been to since 2002, and I don't think she'd ever performed in some of the other places. In Israel, her show was scheduled on the same day as their Labour Party primary elections, so their election was moved to the next day. Her impact. Like always, people complained about lip syncing, and Britney a-cappellaed Happy Birthday to show everyone up. The show was more or less the same as her Piece of Me show, setlist choreo and costume-wise. And then the final show in Vegas was aired on Dick Clark's New Year's Eve special. That show brought in $1.72 million, breaking J-Lo's Vegas box office record. And while we're talking money, Britney was number 8 on Forbes' list of highest earning female musicians, and around this time she donated $1 million to a cancer foundation to build a facility which is named after her in Las Vegas. She also released her 25th perfume. That's right, 25th. I haven't been mentioning all of them because who has the time? But she's got a multi-million-dollar perfume line that is just a complete success, despite the fears that it would fail back in 2006. She does a Kenzo campaign and a deal with Epic Rights for a clothing line. Fashion Girl era again. She wins a GLAAD Vanguard Award.
Being a mother has shown me what it means to love unconditionally, and you are all in this room have showed me throughout my career what it means to be loved unconditionally.
And she announces another tour, this one called Piece of Me. Running out of names here. This tour sold out in minutes. To casual fans, it was exactly the same as the residency. There were minor changes to some choreo, some props, and the way she enters the stage. Things that really only fans notice. And she was on fire this tour. Like, I don't know what got into her when she started going state to state, but she was a demon on stage. Like, she was killing the choreo like she had not in a very long time. She does the second leg of her Piece of Me tour, and before closing it out in Austin, Texas at the Grand Prix weekend, she announces another residency, this one called Domination, which would start in February of 2019.
What do we want? Free Britney! When do we want it? Now! What is it? Free Britney! When do we want it?
In January 2019, Britney canceled the Domination show, citing her father's health. Shortly after, Britney fans who had been involved in the Free Britney movement for years, and an account called Britney's Gram, found out that Britney was being held involuntarily in a facility and released a voicemail from a lawyer who had been involved with the case.
I used to be a paralegal for an attorney that worked with Britney's conservatorship. I am no longer with them. And what is happening is disturbing, to say the least.
Britney's lawyer at that time made a statement that Britney was afraid of her father and would not perform again as long as he had control over her life. And this is when the Free Britney movement really gained a lot of traction. Within a year, there were several documentaries. We finally got to hear Britney speak for herself in court after 13 years and say herself that she wanted out and was experiencing abuse from her family and team. They kept her away from people she loved and people who loved her. They changed her friends' contact names in her phone so she would think her friends weren't texting her back. And now, as of November 12, 2021, the conservatorship over Britney Spears has been lifted, and for the first time in 13 years, she is able to make her own decisions. If her father, Jamie Spears, is found guilty of conservatorship abuse, he is liable for a $42 million bond. Hopefully, he is found guilty and has to pay back all of the money that he stole from her, everyone in her family, Lynn too, Jamie Lynn, everyone. When I started working on this video, I would literally just sit here doing my research and just cry watching these old videos of Britney, and I would get so emotional and just genuinely pissed off that she's had literal years of her life just robbed from her by the people who are supposed to love her the most. And now there's a happy ending that I never would have thought would come so soon. I really hope everything goes well for Britney. I hope she's able to have control over everything and she gets every single penny that she is owed from every show, every beach vacation to Biloxi or wherever the hell her family goes on vacation. I hope Jamie Spears spends a lot of time in a cold, lonely cell. I hope whoever her old lawyer was, Andrew Wallet, I hope he gets barred from the practice. He should not be representing anyone. And I hope Britney does whatever she wants. She's been posting on social media all the time. She's getting married. Donatella Versace is making her dress. I just hope that she has an awesome life and she spends as much time with her kids and does literally whatever she wants for forever. And now I want to thank you for taking a walk with me through one of the greatest stars that is still walking the Earth's legacy. Britney is unarguably an icon. She's had so many iconic and literal pop culture shifting moments, and she's left such a visible impact on pop music. I'm glad that we could focus less on the things that have tore her down and more on those which have built up her colossal legacy. Because no matter what Britney chooses to do with her career from this point forward, she will always be an icon, and she will always be Britney Jean Spears. She will always have loyal fans and even just general population who love her and adore her and want nothing but the best for her. So Britney, thank you. And for anyone who's stuck around this long, I genuinely appreciate you. I hope you choose to subscribe and maybe leave a comment telling me how much you liked this video. My next videos won't be quite as long, so they shouldn't take as long to produce. I hope the effort was evident in this video though, and I hope you can see why it took so long. I did a lot more editing for this one. But yeah, this has been so long, I can't believe I'm finally finished. I never thought the day would come. Follow me on my socials if you want. They're linked on my channel. But yeah, I don't have anything else to say. How could I? I've been talking for so long. Have a wonderful day or night or whatever you're having. I have been Mila Tequila. Allow me to play you out.